like to bring to order the regular meeting of the Tiverton Town Council, Monday, June 14th. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Joan, could you do the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam President. Councillor Edwards.
Here.
Councillor Janik.
Present.
Cook.
Present.
Councillor Vieira.
Here.
Councillor Burke.
Here.
Councillor DiMederos.
Here.
Councillor Perry is absent.
Okay, so I'll do consideration and vote on the following proclamations. If Gunner or his family's in the audience, just raise your hand like I had said before, but I will continue. This proclamation honoring Gunner T. Cook Dumas, Eagle Scout recipient. Whereas Gunner T. Cook Dumas of Tiverton, Rhode Island has achieved the highest ranking award of the Boy Scouts of America and will be presented the Eagle Scout Award at his court of honor on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. Whereas the vision of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare every eligible youth in America to become responsible, participating citizens and leaders who are guided by the Scout oath and law. And whereas only a small percentage of Scouts have ever reached this lofty goal of the Special Eagle Scout Court of Honor, and Gunner is the son of Carl Dumas and Erin Cook Dumas, and by the way, grandmother Donna Cook of the Tiverton Town Council. And I just lost my space because of you, Donna. Whereas Gunner was homeschooled and currently attends classes at Bristol Community College, and Gunner joined the Boy Scouts of America on April 1st, 2015, is a member of the Troop 29 and achieved the rank of Eagle Scout on January 28th, 2021. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scout candidates to complete worthy projects to improve their neighborhoods, their community, and the region. And whereas for his Eagle Community Service Project, Gunner replaced bird nesting boxes for the Tiverton Land Trust. And whereas achieving the rank of Eagle Scout is a very personal event in the life of Gunner and in the lives of his family and friends, and is a tremendous important moment. Be it therefore proclaimed that every official and citizen of the town of Tiverton extends to Gunner T. Cook Dumas their most sincerest congratulations and continued success in all future endeavors. Tiverton Town Council, Denise DiMederos, President, Tiverton Town Council, June 14th, 2021. And this will be presented to Gunner tomorrow by the Vice President. Mike Burke will be there at the ceremony.
Oh, okay, great.
Congratulations, Gunner.
Congratulations, Gunner and parents.
Well done.
Proclamation honoring Max Foley, Eagle Scout recipient. Max Foley of Tiverton, Rhode Island has achieved the highest ranking award of the Boy Scouts of America and will be presented the Eagle Scout Award at his Court of Honor on Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. And whereas the vision of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare every eligible youth in America to become responsible, participating citizens and leaders who are guided by the Scout oath and law. And whereas only a small percentage of Scouts have ever reached this lofty goal of the Special Eagle Scout Court of Honor. Whereas Max is the son of Dr. Jerry Locken and Dr. Sarah Foley. And whereas Max graduated from Tiverton High School this year and is a member of the Boy Scout Troop 29. And whereas Max joined the Tiverton Club Scout Pack 10 on October 1st, 2012, and achieved the rank of Eagle Scout on January 28th, 2021. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scout candidates to complete worthy projects to improve their neighborhoods, their community, and their region. And whereas for his Eagle Scout Community Service Project, Max built picnic tables for the Tiverton Town Farm. And whereas achieving the rank of Eagle Scouts is a very personal event in the life of Max and the lives of his family and friends, and is a tremendous important moment. And be it therefore proclaimed that every official and citizen of the town of Tiverton extends to Max Foley the most sincere congratulations and continued success in all future endeavors. Tiverton Town Council, Denise D. Medeiros, President, Tiverton Town Council, on June 14, 2021. Congratulations, Max.
Great job, Max.
Well done.
Honoring Raymond Austin Anvar Barrett, Eagle Scout recipient. Raymond Austin Anvar Barrett of Tiverton, Rhode Island, has achieved the highest ranking award of the Boy Scouts of America and will be presented the Eagle Scout Award at his Court of Honor on Tuesday, July 10th, 2021. And whereas the vision of the Boy Scouts of America is to prepare every eligible youth in America to become responsible, participating citizens and leaders who are guided by the Scout oath and law. And whereas only a small percentage of Scouts have ever reached this lofty goal of the special Scout Court of Honor, and whereas Raymond is the son of James R. Barrett and Victoria Duclos Barrett, whereas Raymond is currently enrolled in civil engineering program at Bristol Community College, and whereas Raymond began his scouting career as a Tiger Scout with St. Christopher's Pack 8 in first grade and is a member of the Troop 27 and achieved 47 Eagle Scout merit badges. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America encourage Eagle Scouts candidates to complete worthy projects to improve their neighborhoods, their community, and the region. And whereas for his Eagle Community Service Project, Raymond managed a crew of scouts and volunteers to finish a shelter for rescued birds and rabbits at West Place Annual Sanctuary. And whereas achieving the rank of Eagle Scout is a very personal event in the life of Raymond and the lives of his family and friends, and is a tremendous important moment, and be therefore proclaimed that every official and citizen in the town of Tiverton extends to Raymond Austin Anvar Barrett their most sincere congratulations and continued success in all future endeavors. Tiverton Town Council, Denise D. Medeiros, President, Tiverton Town Council, June 14, 2021. Congratulations, Raymond.
Madam President,
Yes.
I'd like to move by unanimous consent that we adopt those proclamations with one minor correction to Raymond's. It's a Saturday, it's not a Tuesday.
Okay.
I just noticed that.
Oh,
Do I have unanimous consent? Anyone objects? Okay, so moved.
I think Raymond earned every badge there is to earn.
I know.
Congratulations, Raymond.
I think he's a bit of an overachiever.
That's a hell of a lot of work.
Congratulations to all three of them.
Absolutely.
Fine job.
Oh, Joe, you're here.
No, I'm here.
I didn't even notice you joined us. I was too busy reading.
Snuck in. For
Okay.
anyone who's never been to one of those awards, the Eagle Awards, I was invited to one. A young man who went to high school with my son, and I really had no idea what it was about. It was such an amazing ceremony.
Mhm.
I cried through the whole thing. And it was just, it was pretty amazing. I think 3 men who were awarded at that had done really amazing work. So congratulations.
Yeah,
I had to speak at one and it was quite an event.
yeah. Madam Clerk, will I be able to pick up the formal copies tomorrow? For the first 2 anyway?
Yes, we'll have them available tomorrow.
All right, so if I'm not there before you leave, because I have to be in Providence for most of the day, can they go in my box and hopefully they'll fit in there? Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'll continue. Consent agenda. Approval of Town Council minutes, May 24th, 2021, regular session, Counselor DiMederos and Vieira, absent, abstained. May 24th, 2021, executive session, Counselor DiMederos and Vieira, absent, abstained. June 1st, 2021, special session. Knowledge.
Madam President,
Yes,
we'd like to pull the June 1st meeting minutes. They were not ready for the packet.
okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. B, acknowledgement receipts of minutes from the boards, commissions, and committees, open space 1. Acknowledge receipts of reports, town administrator, department monthly reports, May 2021. Police and fire department overtime reports, May 2021. Jennifer Feliciano, town planner and administrative officer, report of activities of planning department and planning board for March, April, and May 2021. Acknowledge receipts of correspondence, town of Smithfield, resolution in support of H555 gun-free schools. Town of Smithfield, resolution in support of H6030, state reimbursement of transportation services costs for public and private school pupils. Town of Bristol, resolution declaring love has a home in Bristol. Town of Bristol proclamation declaring Friday, June 4th, 2021 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. Town of North Smithfield, resolution in support of H5555 gun-free schools. Town of North Smithfield, resolution in support of 5193 moratorium on the expansion of charter schools. Town of Woonsocket, resolution in support of H5193 moratorium on the expansion of charter schools. Town of Woonsocket, resolution in support of H5555 gun-free schools. Town of Woonsocket, resolutions in support of H6030, state reimbursement of transportation services costs for public and private school pupils. Town of Hopkinton, resolution in support of H6287 and S0871, request to waive local maintenance of effort required for schools. Approval of tax assessed abatements, $48.37. Administrator Carter acknowledged reappointment of town electrician and plumbing mechanical inspectors and the alternate electrical and plumbing mechanical inspectors. DPW Director Rogers requests permission to advertise bids for catch basin frames and grates and HDPE pipes. DPW Director Rogers requests permission to advertise for 1 employee position. And Town Clerk requests permission to advertise vacant positions on the Budget Committee. Would anyone like to take anything from the consent agenda? I see no one that wants to do that.
Bill does,
Oh, I'm sorry,
and
Bill.
Donna.
I'm sorry. Bill,
No, I don't have a,
Oh.
I'm just wondering where all the noise is coming from. There's a lot of noise.
I know it's not, I don't believe it's for me.
Sounds like toilets flushing.
Well, it's not my toilet. My dog was barking during the proclamations. I think he was pretty impressed with the Eagle Scouts.
Is it gone now?
Yeah, for the moment. Well, what are
It was
you?
it was my fan.
Oh,
A fan? Really?
he's warm. Bill,
Do I have to pull A1 and A2 as I was absent that day?
no, you don't.
No, okay.
Anything else? So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, eliminating June 1st, 2021 special session, which will be tabled until the next meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Motion's been made by Councilor Edwards, I think.
Nope.
No?
Council Perry.
Oh, Councilor Perry. Joe, I always forget you. Motion's been made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Vieira. All those in favor? Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Danick,
Yes,
Councilor Cook,
Yes,
Councilor Vieira,
yes,
Councilor Burke,
Yes,
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. We'll move on. Public comments regarding a council agenda item or other town businesses. Comments received, Helen D. Anthony, on behalf of Jason Peckham, Farrell Bink Farms, social moratorium affecting potential 1 acre solar project. Is Miss Anthony here? I hear the noise again.
No,
Yeah.
that's not me.
Oh, something else in it.
Sounds like a hamster on a wheel.
It does, Deb. All right, so I do have a letter from Miss Anthony, and I will read it. Regarding Farrell Blink Farms, dear Council President and members of the Town Council, I represent Mr. Jason Peckham, owner of Farrell Blink Farms, 993 Pontiac Neck Road, Tiverton, Rhode Island. It's a beautiful 275-acre property with a 15-acre working farm. As you are aware, farming is difficult during the best of times and is increasingly difficult for farmers to continue to farm without ways to supplement their income. Mr. Peckham would like to install a 1 acre ground mounted solar array on his farm in order to generate additional income. He is unable to do so because Tiverton has had a solar moratorium for over 2.5 years. My understanding is there is a draft solar ordinance that has been developed by the town planner, but has not been advanced to town council. Mr. Peckham's project would be allowed for special permit if that ordinance is enacted. My client has extended time and money in developing his solar project. It has a USDA grant to help with the expense, and he has an interconnection service agreement with the National Grid. If the project isn't constructed soon, he will lose the grant and have to refile for interconnection, which is an expensive process. Mr. Peckham has worked with the town to preserve land and has been a good community stakeholder. He should be allowed to develop solar on 1 acre of his 275-acre property in order to help him continue to farm. The council's inaction on solar ordinance will negatively affect Mr. Peckham's business. The proposed solar ordinance does a wonderful job of balancing the town's desire to maintain its rural character while allowing solar development in an appropriate area. It will also go a long way to help Rhode Island meet its goal of acquiring 100% of the state's electricity from renewable energy sources by 2030. It will also allow Mr. Peckham to maintain his 15-acre farm and keep the rest of his property undeveloped. Please respond to my letter and let me know if the council will consider the proposed solar ordinance in the near future. Thank you for consideration, Helen D. Anthony. Of course, we can't take any action on this, but I will inquire about it and see if I can get this on our agenda as soon as possible, if that's okay with everyone. Okay. Public
Madam
hearing,
President,
yes,
when we have that on our agenda, can we have the planner
of course,
come to?
yeah,
Thank
and
you.
probably the planning board too.
Yeah,
That's usually what happens with proposed ordinances, and then, of course, we have to go out for advertisement and the whole thing, so it's not gonna be done immediately, but let's see if we can get some action.
well, especially before his the grant expiration.
Public
Madam-
hearings,
Madam
and I'm not,
President,
yes,
we did receive 3 other public comments
all right,
regarding, I think it involved the oyster farm. That's the proposed oyster farm off of Sepauwett.
did you send it to us? Do I have it, Joe?
Yeah, we got them.
Yeah.
If somebody has it and they can find it sooner than I can, would somebody read it for me, please?
Well, I
I
had it.
have 4 on
I
that.
think it's only fair that we read public comment out loud.
Yeah, I can do that, Madam President, if you like.
Thank you, Mike. I'm trying to find.
And I know at least one of these, I noticed one of these folks is in the audience. The first one I'll read is, and if I say people's names wrong, forgive me, Cynthia Aber. To the town council. As a 50-year summer resident and taxpayer of 42 Driftwood Drive, Tiverton, I want to vehemently voice my opposition to the proposal for the oyster farm in our adjacent waters. I am appalled that abutters were not notified of this oyster farm proposal and only by chance learned of this meeting tonight with intent to town approval. The deceptive action should be of grave concern not only to the abutters, but to town residents who enjoy the recreational water activities the area provides and who will be adversely affected should this proposal be approved. I'm afraid the town will have failed miserably in its responsibility as gatekeeper of the town resources to its taxpaying citizens if it allows private enterprise to usurp the recreational opportunities offered in the area. If approved, this action should be construed as a miscarriage of justice. Sincerely, Cynthia Souza Aber. And the second one, my name is Kathleen Metcalf, and my husband Richard and I have just been informed that a proposal for an oyster farm in the Sakonnet River in the vicinity of our property at 723 Seapowder Avenue is being voted on this evening. First of all, we are appalled that we have not been notified of this project in advance. We strongly recommend this be voted against as we are concerned about the effects of all aspects of the future outcome should this project be allowed. The Sakonnet River offers residents and visitors a wonderful place to swim, kayak, enjoy the sun, and spectacular views. Secondly, we are concerned about property values declining. We as taxpayers and residents should have a voice in this decision. In closing, I also find it disturbing that these types of issues are not publicly available until either the last minute or worse after the fact. Again, we strongly oppose this entire project. Thank you, Kathleen Metcalf. The third is, sorry, some of these are a little small. The print on the emails are a little small, so that's why I'm having, is from Paul Fulton. Dear members of the Tiverton Town Council, only yesterday I learned that the town of Tiverton is poised to permit an oyster farm opposite the outlet of Seapowder Marsh. I'm surprised and disappointed that abutters were offered no advance notice of this, and I'm told it may be too late to weigh in. Nevertheless, I would like to register a number of opinions. Excuse me. One, the decision to approve this oyster farm should be delayed until all questions can be answered, including input from those in the immediate neighborhood. Two, I've read some of the proposals and feel there are some inaccuracies and omissions. For instance, the developers claim this is a non-swimming area, citing a report regarding currents. However, visit on any warm day and you will find I think that should be many swimming and fishing in this area. The developers claim they will service the farms by wading, but do not rule out the use of boats. Where is their access? Is it the ramp at the bend of Driftwood Drive, a private residence? Will trucks be in the area at low tide with the noise of machinery? Will generators be running to power hoses to clean the cages? If this site is good for oysters due to the nutrients coming out of the marsh, how is it the effluents from the oysters won't enter the marsh with unforeseen consequences? In general, the proposed spot is an unspoiled Tiverton gem, having been successfully protected for generations. There are more suitable spots that are less disruptive to recreation, kayaking, fishing, and the quality of life for local residents. I respectfully request that this decision be delayed until there is a full airing of the issue. Sincerely, Paul Fulton, 52 Driftwood Drive. And Donna, you said you had a fourth one? I didn't see a fourth one.
Yeah.
There's the fourth one, Russ and Mary Dexter.
I didn't get that one.
No, I have a Patty Garber.
All right, well, I just got another one, but go ahead if you want.
First of all, there's, I know we're reading them now, but it would have been really helpful to wait till we get to what I had put in. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding as to what we're going to speak about tonight.
Right. And I was just going to say that there is a huge misunderstanding on what we're going to speak on tonight. We are not proving this at all.
I think, I'll try to go over, why I put this in for exactly the reasons that they're stating is the reason that I put this in, because over and over again, I
Should
hear
we
this.
read that second letter though, that fourth letter, Donna?
Yeah, it's, you want me to read it?
Yes.
Okay. I have been a Tiverton resident for 24 years. I recently became aware of the proposed Bowen Oyster Farm petition, and I would like to express my concerns before it is voted on the 22nd of this month. Now, that is a hearing at the CRMC. That's totally different. Like most others in our town and country and world, I was preoccupied with the COVID-19 pandemic over the last year. If there was a public notification of the proposed oyster farm, and many of my neighbors were unaware of such. The past year we just experienced was not a year to make a decision that impacts our community without thoughtful input from residents. What I am requesting is a pause for the community to come together and have a chance look at this proposal as we begin to emerge from the cloud of this pandemic. My overall concerns, number one, the timing of the application. One would not expect someone to evaluate an application or anything of importance during a house fire, and COVID was our worldwide house fire. While the application process was legal, I believe that the timing and process for notification were not prudent given the pandemic. The concern for leaving public recreation waters open and well.
Okay.
Public.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Did
Go on.
someone say something?
No, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The concern for leaving public recreation water. Okay, I am perplexed about the reasoning on how a public waterway that is utilized by many recreational can be leased to private individuals if there is doubt that this will impact the fishing conditions for everyone. I am equally concerned about how the maintenance activities will impact the tranquil nature of the area that the public enjoys. The Bowens mentioned that they would access the troughs by water or through a private land access. Have they obtained written permission from the landowners that border the proposed oyster farm location for that land access? When some abutting property owners were recently approached by my neighbor, they had no knowledge of this oyster farm proposal. How many other residents are not aware of this proposal? I did read in the proposal that some abutting property owners were on board with the proposal. Which is it? What do the twice daily maintenance activities involve? I would like a detailed account of these maintenance activities as they were not described fully in the application. These maintenance activities potentially have an impact on the peace and quiet of this area. This important detail was skimmed over in the application. What state and or local agencies monitor the oyster farm? 6, are there any time limits on this permit to allow for periodic evaluation and review from the public input? Example, can the permit be withdrawn if the oyster farm is found to have unforeseen problems and or if the Bowens fail to keep their part of the agreement? I have not concluded yay or nay about the oyster farm proposal because I have more questions than answers even after reading the 97-page proposal. The Bowen brothers put time, thought, and resources in their application. I respect this effort. I also respect the residents in our area and those that recreate here. I believe that the public too needs time, information, and forum for an open dialogue with the Bowens, Coastal Management Resource Commission, Tiverton Harbor Commission, etc., to be able to weigh in on the oyster farm pro and con. It seems to be the same problem that they think they're butters. And there is a resolution to this, but we'll have to discuss it when we come to the time we're discussing my agenda item, I believe.
Yes, Donna,
Because
thank
it's out
you.
of order right now.
Right. Chris, did you have your hand up?
I did at one point because Bruce Cox is also on the
Yeah, he has his-
commission, and I wasn't sure if you were going to take this item out of order or not, so I did bring him in. But I do
he-
also have Cynthia Aber here, and I will bring in I think it's Mr. Fulton, who's also in the attendee room, if you want to hear from them at this time, or would you prefer to wait till the item comes up on the
I would
agenda?
prefer to wait until the item comes
Unless
up.
you just want to move the agenda item, I don't know. We seem to be discussing it now.
Well, it's only because we're not really discussing it. We're just bringing up the public comment we received.
No.
Does anyone want to entertain a motion to bring that up? To
Why don't,
discuss 9E now?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, did
Am I
someone
allowed
want
to make a motion on my
Yes,
own?
Donna,
I'll let Bill.
No, that was me, Donna. I was just going to ask whether or not we wanted to do it right after the scheduled public hearing on the fireworks and the flood plan, because the flood plan should be quick, I would think, but it's up to you, Donna, whatever you want to do. Your pleasure.
Well, I don't want to make these people wait, but I think they can wait 2 minutes while we do the other two things. What
And
do
I
you
think there's other people in the participant room that are here for the public hearings also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it would help if I read my agenda item, would explain what's going on, because there seems to be misinformation or misunderstanding of what we do, what it's about.
Okay, so
Denise, can I ask Donna something quick?
yeah, we're getting way off topic
I
here.
know. Donna, could you forward that copy of that email to Joan so she can send it to all of us?
I also have it. I
haven't got it.
Yeah, I just found it.
It's rather late.
It was in my rhodeisland.com.
Yeah.
It was there.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
don't-
I happened to notice it.
Well, I also have another one I just got like within the last hour. Anyway, public hearing advertised. Ed Mazza, I'm gonna mess up this name, Mazzaferro, 59 Nanaquacket Road, requests approval of sound variance for fireworks at wedding
That's a
on June
Firo.
26, 2021, from 10 p to 11 p, subject to meeting all legal requirements. Now, we approved this wedding without the fireworks, correct?
I thought so.
Sound variance for this wedding. Now he's coming back asking for fireworks. There are concerns, and I believe he's in the audience, isn't he, Chris?
Yeah, I'm bringing them in right now.
There are concerns regarding the fireworks, and there was some things that I really wasn't aware of, that I'm going to give the floor to Administrator Carter, and then the police chief is also here. So Chris, there were things that we needed to look into,
Yeah.
as I understand, because there's gonna be a barge out
So,
on the
so-
water.
so I'll just be blunt about that. I think we were fine with all this until the resurrection of the fireworks came back. He does have a firm that is going to handle this, but it's gonna create some issues on behalf of the town, is that once those fireworks get loaded at the pier onto a barge, we are required by law to have a detail assembly to be with that barge at all times. And because this barge is going to be situated out in the middle of the Secundit River, we are going to have to also provide details to monitor boat traffic to keep it away from the barge. So those are things that we didn't know were going to happen, because when it was approved without the fireworks, we didn't, we didn't have those issues until this resurrected itself to come up onto this agenda. So I do know both police and fire will be activated as soon as whatever fireworks get loaded onto a barge to actually enter the waterway. And the police will obviously have some details to deal around the residents to deal with this particular issue. So, and I'm not here to nix the issue. I think that we can get this all under control, but I do think that the owners or who want to present this need to have an understanding that there are more requirements that meets the simple passing of the ability to do this.
During the agenda meeting was discussed, when is this going to be set up? When is it going to be taken down? And during that period of time, we were going to have a detail, which is costly.
Correct.
Did we notify Mr. Mazzaferro that he's responsible for the detail cost?
I don't know if that was done. I do know that we were trying to reach out to him. I'm not sure if we did or not. I know I did not get a hold of him.
Yeah,
Mr. Mazzaferro, are you there?
yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you have any idea when they're going to set this up?
Matt Shea with Atlas Fireworks is here. I can probably give you as much information as you probably need.
Is that all right with you, Mr. Mazzaferro?
Yeah, that's fine. I was gonna
You were
ask
gonna
Matt.
do that anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Shea.
Thank you for inviting us tonight. So this show is going to be very similar to what we do at Roger Williams every spring, which is in your neighboring community. We use our mini barges. We plan on putting the mini barge and the fireworks in probably about 11 o'clock in the morning. And then we plan on staging somewhere off near Gould Island. The mini barge, by the way, is very small. It's only 30 feet long. Then we'll stage out of the way for the entire duration. As I put in my email earlier today, which I believe all of you have a copy of the email and the permit application package, we won't start loading the fireworks until we're past the mooring field and at the Gould Island area. Then probably about 7 or 8 o'clock at night, we will move into position for at the wedding venue and shoot the fireworks and then go back. There won't be any fireworks that are left over. There are no fireworks being stored overnight on either one of the nights. Everything comes down. It's a very complete and a process that we use in Rhode Island quite a bit. And we do realize that there's going to be a detail that will be with us for the day. And, we're open to listening to what your requirements will be, but our impact in the area is really going to be minimal. It's a very small fireworks show. And my radius is basically 400 feet around the barge during the fireworks show.
I don't know about the rest of you, but I don't believe I received a packet. Did any of you
I did not.
I did.
today?
Yeah, Jeannie sent it to us. I forget what time.
Okay,
This says June 14th at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I probably found it around 3. But now, when we're making broad comments about needing a detail and needing to be able to control traffic around the barge, we only have 2 boats, right?
Yes.
And
yeah,
would it require more than that? That's number one. What does the detail do? I know they're going to be there when they load materials onto the barge, but then once the barge is in the firing lane, if you will, do we have to have a detail on the barge?
That's typically up to the community. A lot of communities in Rhode Island, once we are on the water, Bristol's one of them. We don't have a detail. In Newport, they'll swing by close to showtime just to give us some assistance. But every community is different, and I really leave that up to the fire and the police department. But we're typically completely out of the way and on the water even though it's a 4-hour detail at the boat launch, when we launch these and put the fireworks on, it's less than probably an hour that we impact that area.
I guess my final comment would be, even if you had a detail on the barge, they're going to have a mass launch towards the end of this thing. We've all seen what that looks like. And if anything went terribly wrong, I bet you everybody's in the water quick.
Nobody's actually on the barge during the show. It's shot wirelessly.
Oh, you're on the pontoon boat or whatever it is?
Correct. Yep.
my understanding, it was to keep people away from the barge while it was there. Chris, am I right?
Correct. So have you dealt at all with the local fire marshal from the fire department?
We have the fire chief. My office has been working with them. We have sent the permits. From my understanding, he was going to have a 4-hour detail at the time of us, loading at putting everything on the barge, and then we get out of their way. And then I believe that he was going to, at some particular point, whether it was during, at showtime, he was going to come by to make sure that we were all set. But I'm giving that to you third person, so I really have to put that over to the fire chief to see what his thoughts were.
Okay.
Is the fire chief here?
I was just checking to see if he is. He is not at the moment.
I don't see him.
Patrick, have you spoken to him at all? Have you coordinated police with fire?
My office has coordinated it. When I spoke with Tara, who works in the next office to me, she had said that the fire chief was all set with everything, and that was last week.
Okay, so like I said, I don't have any issue with moving forward. We just need sign off for both police and fire chief as it relates to these fireworks and the amount of details that they're going to require.
And we'll need, and who's going to take the expense of this?
I'll work with the sponsor on it, and then one of us will take care of that. That's typically not an issue for anybody.
Okay. At this point, I'd like to.
Madam President, quick question.
Yes.
So, Mr. Shea, you said the whole show itself is about an hour or less?
Okay, so it's an hour or less as far as the impact on the boat launch with the fireworks. The fireworks show itself is 9 minutes long.
Oh, okay.
And it's the way I always like to put it is it's a nice cap to the end of the evening, and hopefully people who are watching this that can see it will get to see a nice fireworks show.
So, Mr. Mazzaferro, what time were you considering having this launch?
They were going to get launched at 9 o'clock.
So you would ask for an extension to 11. That's why I asked that question.
The extension to 11 was for the music.
Okay.
The band to play to 11 o'clock.
All right, because on our, is that what we already approved, the extension to 11 for the band?
We've already approved that.
Okay, all right, never mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
because it's crossed out on the agenda
Right.
right now.
Yeah.
Does
That's what was
Portsmouth have
confusing.
anything to say about this?
Well,
Does Portsmouth get involved in this at all?
No,
No.
all right, I'd like to, this is a public hearing. So I'd like to open it up to the public. I think we have some hands raised, Chris.
We do, hang on just a second.
I can't wait till we're live.
I think some of those may be for the other issue that we were discussing.
You do? Yeah,
I'm
well,
not sure about all of them, but
well, Bruce Cox.
Patrick Jones is on here.
No. I'm looking at the people in the
Right.
attendees that have their hands raised.
Bruce,
I
are you
am
here
too.
to speak at all about this fireworks issue with the Hopper Master? Or?
No, I'm sorry. I just lowered my hand.
Okay,
and I believe M&P from Driftwood Drive had also put a comment in around the
Right.
aquaculture piece.
Okay, so if anyone in the attendees would like to speak right now, please raise their hands.
so Jeannie Souza, are you here to speak on this matter with the wedding?
I don't think so.
I think she just took her hand down.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I'm
I
gonna
think
move-
she was with the other people.
all right.
Oh, no, there's no, her hand's still up.
So if there's anybody in the attendee room who would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Patrick has his hand up. Patrick, you can speak. You're with us.
Yeah, you did earlier.
I just wanted to, I have the fire chief on my cell phone because as usual, the fire chief's doing double duty. He just ended a COVID vaccination clinic. So I let him know that this was being brought up so I can remote him in on my speakerphone. So this way you can hear his opinion on this as well. Hold on one second.
Okay.
It was technology great.
Meanwhile, if anyone would like to call in,
Yes, hang on. So anybody who would like to speak on this matter, they may dial in at 877-853-5247. The meeting ID number is 831-1015-8669, and the passcode is 560638. If you're watching on YouTube videos, it is posted on the town council agenda for tonight's meeting, all the information to log in or to call in for tonight's meeting. So Bruce, do you have an opinion? Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yes, I can.
So we were just wondering, have you coordinated the efforts that are needed for the details related to the loading of the particular apparatus?
So we have we've been in touch with the fireworks company. We will be hiring 2 detail firefighters. One for when, by law, they have to have a fire detail when they stop the delivery truck, which will be on Riverside Drive. When they stop there to transfer all the fireworks over to the barge, by law, they have to have a detail there.
Okay.
So what's going to happen after? So we'll have one guy there, and then when they're done with that, I'm going to have a couple, which is going to probably take a couple hours. I'll have an additional firefighter go down to Marine 14, the fireboat, and both firefighters will be out patrolling in the area around the barge until all the fireworks shot off, and then they'll return to the dock. So we have coordinated that with the fireworks company. Whether they've coordinated or told that to the people having the wedding, I'm not sure. That's up to them. But the fireworks company did give us a plan, and we are coordinating with them.
Okay. All right.
Now, my other question is the harbor master aware of what's going to happen also?
So I don't know if he is yet. That is definitely, he will be made aware this week. I'm hoping to get a better time frame of when the actual delivery of the fireworks down to the barge is going to be. But he is definitely going to be involved. I won't say he'll be involved. I'll leave that up to him. He will definitely be made aware of what's going on. And I'm going to ask him to be out there, but obviously I don't have control over him. I'm sure he will be. I mean, I'm sure he'll be good with that. So.
Yeah, because he may want to monitor boat traffic in the area during this whole event also.
Exactly, and I'll probably notify the Coast Guard at the same time, and I'm going to notify not that they need to be in the area, but just of the event, and I'm also going to notify Portsmouth Fire Department, because people, they see something on the river and that's in Portsmouth. They automatically think it's in Portsmouth or Tiverton, or So there will be other agencies that are notified.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to participate in the public hearing? I don't see any.
778535247. Meeting is 8311015 and 8669 with a passcode of 560638. I see no other hands in the attendee room.
Nope.
So I don't know if you would like to close the public hearing at this point.
Yes, I will close the public hearing and I will entertain a motion from the council.
I'll move that we approve this contingent upon making sure we have the details sorted out. Our harbor master is aware. Coast Guard is aware. Portsmouth is aware. What have I missed?
Just so everybody knows, the Coast Guard permit was filed and they're aware.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Great.
I was thinking that I would imagine you would have had to have told them.
Yep, I would think so.
I'll second Jay's motion.
Okay, so
Well, if I missed anything, somebody add it in.
No, I don't, I think you do.
Just subject to all legal and safety requirements.
That's another way of doing it.
Yeah. All right, so I have a motion by Counselor Edwards and a second by Counselor Perry. All those in favor, Counselor
I'll
Edwards,
second.
Yes. Oh, do
Counselor
we have a
Janet.
second?
Yeah, we did. Counselor Perry seconded, Donna,
Okay.
but thank you. Counselor Janik,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, unanimous. Congratulations, and I hope it goes well, Mr. Mazzavera.
Have a great wedding.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sure the
You
neighbors are
too,
gonna
Katie. Have a
love
great wedding.
And the rest of Tiverton can watch your fireworks too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 6B, approval of proposed amendment to Chapter 67 Floodplain Management Program, Section 67.2 and 67.4, reflecting changes defined by the Newport County Flood Insurance Study Report and required changes for new flood data notifications to the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Who would like to speak on this?
So is there any, I guess between Joan and I, we can speak. These are floodplain management plans that are issued by FEMA that we periodically do. Last year, we did the same set with, I think there was one exception to this, Joan. There's another addition to it. And we would move approval from the council to move forward so that we comply with the will of all other communities for the same plans.
Joan, would you like to add anything?
Just that Rhode Island EMA is coordinating to ensure that all of the cities and towns that need to approve this, do this by the effective date so that you don't run into the problem you had last year. So as soon as this is approved, tomorrow I will inform Rhode Island EMA that we have completed our task associated with these panel updates.
Thank you. I'd entertain I'd like to open this to the public hearing.
Correct.
Anyone in the audience who want to say anything, please raise your hand. And Chris, the call numbers again.
So it's 877-853-5247. Phone number. The meeting ID number is 831-1015-8669 with the passcode of 560638. Again, anybody who's watching on YouTube videos, this is posted on the Town Council Agenda website. If you want to weigh in at all, please call the number 877-853-5247. If there's anybody in the attendee room currently on Zoom who would like to speak, please raise your hand. I do know there's an M&P of Driftwood Drive who has his hand raised, but I believe that that's for the aquaculture thing.
It is.
And I think Cindy Abar also has her hand raised for aquaculture.
Yes.
So are you also want to speak for, hang on.
I think there's some confusion on folks' part.
Yeah, so Janine D'Souza, are you here to speak on the matter related to the FEMA floodplains? You're in with the council right now. You had your hand up, so with
She's on mute.
Jeannie, could you
She's on
please?
mute.
I'm trying to unmute her. I can't unmute her, so she has to do it herself.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, you can. Wait a minute.
No, every
No.
time it doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So Jeannie, can you unmute yourself?
There you go.
There she goes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, are you here to speak on the FEMA floodplains?
No,
Or-
I'm here to speak about the oyster farm that
Okay,
made its way.
I'm going to bring you in later on. We're not on that subject
Okay.
yet. Okay.
Thank you. Yep, thanks.
I
Is
hate
there anyone
Zoom.
else?
No, so I'll read it one more time. Before we close the public hearing, it's 877-853-5247. The meeting ID number is 831-1015-8669 with the passcode of 560638. So just give it a second. And you can close the public hearing, Madam President.
Yep. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move approval of the proposed amendment to Chapter 67 as noted in the agenda.
I'll
Second. Okay, so I have a motion by Councilor Burke, a second by Councilor Cook. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, the vote's unanimous. Board of Licensing,
May I suggest, Madam President, that we move, I'll make a motion that we move item 9E up to the current spot in the agenda.
Second that.
okay, so I have a motion by Councilor Burke, seconded by Councilor Vieira to move 9E to the top of the agenda to be discussed now. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Councilor Cook, discussion regarding an ordinance for town council to consider sending abutter notices when agriculture farmers apply for a permit that will impact recreation activity, fishing rights, and accessibility to the coastline for enjoyment of the water. Councilor Cook, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. Just so the people that are in, that want to speak, I noticed that there seems to be, I think, a misunderstanding as to what my agenda item is. I'm trying to find a remedy for a situation that I hear over and over again, which I hear in these letters, is that you're not notified. And I'm trying to find a way to notify, quote, abutters. The problem is that the CRMC is not required to send any notification because they don't consider people that live near the water to be abutters, because the state owns the water and the land underneath it. So I'll read my my agenda item to see what I'm trying to do to resolve some of the situation that's occurring. Okay, so explain the nature of the request. During Harbor Commission meetings, there have been complaints from residents that they were not informed about the aquaculture farm, that they found out months later want to be informed as abutters. Even though the application for a permit is posted, the residents are not informed by letter, and at times the full impact of the recreational use is not fully vetted by how they use the area. Objections are filed to the CRMC with more information that was not available. Sometimes the Harbor Commission is not aware of the full impact and need this information when voting to approve. Presently, there's no requirement for the CRMC to inform by letter to the abutters that an application has been applied for and will impact the area's coastline. We don't have an MOU with the CRMC to remedy this situation, but the town can, in the interest of its residents, have an ordinance to resolve this issue. Also, in the interest of transparency, an alert should be posted on the town website that links to the CRMC website. A possible vote on the issue. Rhode Island Constitution 17 fishery rights, shore privileges, preservation of natural resources. The people shall continue to enjoy and freely exercise all the rights of fishery and the privileges of the shore, to which they have been heretofore entitled under the charter and usages of the state, including but not limited to fishing from the shore, the gathering of seaweed, leaving the shore to swim in an area and passage along the shore. They shall be secure in their rights for the use and enjoyment of the natural resources of the state, with due regard for the preservation of their values, and it shall be the duty of the General Assembly to provide for the conservation of the air, land, water, plant, animal, mineral, and other natural resources of the state, and to adopt all means necessary and proper by law to protect the natural environment of the people of the state by providing adequate resource planning for the control, regulation of the use of the natural resources of the state, and for the preservation, generation, restoration of the natural environment of the state. So, as you look through the letters,
Well, I think what's important to know is that we are not approving anything tonight.
well, that's what I was going to
Right.
address. Yeah.
Right. Everyone's under the impression that we're going to allow this tonight, and it's not ours to allow.
No. And I was going to send, anyway, over and over again with these letters, they think we're going to approve something that we have no say on. It's the CRMC that has say. They do post everything. The problem is, I don't think the ordinary person, if not knowing that they see something, is going to go on the CRMC site thinking something's going to happen to the water. They just feel they have their rights, which they do by the Rhode Island Constitution. So by the time word gets around, unfortunately, and even the Harbor Commission posts and has hearings, they try to gather as much information. The problem is people don't know about it because they're not getting a letter. And I think that's the weakness in the whole process is the no letter. Because what happens is there's, I believe, maybe not like after you hear some of the uses and the objections and more information comes out, that the way maybe someone voted are not happy with the way they voted because they didn't have this information. So they have buyer's remorse, so to speak. I just think it's not that, I don't know if the CRMC would be willing to set out a butter letters. They don't have to. But I think as a town, as a service that we do for building variances and other things, we should handle it the same way. This is a new industry that's coming to Tiverton, and I think it's very obvious that people want to be informed by a letter. And it's my opinion that to have this service for the people of Tiverton, to inform them as butters, it should be done. How it's to be done, I don't know, whether it's by ordinance or that we just do a policy, or that we or that the Harbor Commission has it in their ordinance. I'm not sure. Also, one thing that I had Chris do for one of the applications was to have a direct link from our town, and it was all in red, a direct link to the CRMC site so that people could go directly. This is for Nanaquacket when we were having that issue with Nanaquacket. People could go directly to the CRMC site and view that application. But I really think a letter informing people would be extremely helpful. And I think it would help the Harbor Commission also and the CRMC, because people will then come forward, like they're coming forward now, would have come forward months ago.
But they would have had to go to the CRMC hearing.
No, because they would have got a letter. They would have got a letter informing them that this was an application had been filed.
Councilor Burke? You're on mute, Mike.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. One, Don, I appreciate the intent of bringing this forward. I do agree that the CRMC should be finding a way to communicate. There are a couple of ways that most people may not know of that I'll get to in a second. I did send an email from myself out to the three people who had, or three couples who had it in the packet that the clerk sent us that I saw, and Christine Ryan, who had called me today and just reiterate what was said, that we were not approving anything tonight. It's not within our regulatory authority to approve. And someone had posted on Facebook the date of the hearing next week on June 22nd and the information for it. So I included that in there. At the same time, I am concerned of us taking on a responsibility that's not ours, partially because we won't always know. We won't always have the right information. And then it would look like we're trying to hide something that we're not. It's simply because we're not in the know. So that is a concern. So, I know we're going to hear from some folks, but a couple of things to think about. And, I asked, because it's not written on the agenda this way, I don't know if our solicitor thinks it's appropriate, but certainly if it is, I think, if we all agree, or if we agree, should communicate to the CRMC our desire for them to institute a policy such as that, and for communication purposes to abutters, similar to what cities and towns have to do for our own zoning planning regulations and the like, similar to what had to be done by Mr. Mazzavero for the wedding. He had to notify the abutters around him. The other piece is we can consider whether or not we want to ask our delegation to the assembly to put in legislation that would require the CRMC to do that. Now, that wouldn't be for another year. So I think the first step would be to ask the CRMC, and then second step would be the legislation. Finally, there is a process by which, but again, many people don't know this, any state agency is required to keep basically a list of people who want to be notified whenever there's a regulatory change or a public hearing of some sort. And you can get on that list. I don't know who the CRMC contact is offhand, but I'm sure that can be found. And you can tell them, we want to be notified. This day and age, most of that notification is being done via email, but there is that way, so that it helps close that loop a little bit. But the person has to take that on themselves to ask to be on that list. Thank you.
Anyone else from the council? Jay?
I'm just going to reiterate what both Donna and Mike said. The big problem I have is, especially when you're dealing with sites in the water off the coast, when you look at the CRMC permit application and hearings, you end up seeing a longitude and a latitude for where is it. I've seen maps where they were kind of as clear as mud. They were abbreviated. It sort of gave you an idea. Maybe it's here, maybe it's there. It's hard to tell. Whereas if you want to build a shed in your backyard, you have an address, which is really obvious, and there's no doubt where it is, and if that's your neighbor or not. If it impacts you. Whereas some of these aquaculture and CRMC things aren't quite that clear and obvious. Also, I'm sure none of us spend every day looking to see what's likely to happen around us. We wait to be informed, and the town has a responsibility to make sure that people are informed of changes in their neighborhood. And I personally don't see any reason why the CRMC should not also have that responsibility, but they don't. And as Mike said, there are ways to make sure that happens. But meantime, until that does, I don't understand everything about CRMC and permitting, but it seems to me that our planning board and our harbor commission must be in the loop in some timely manner, and maybe we could ask them to do this.
Well, by coincidence, I have Bruce right here.
Yeah, I see he's there, and I'd like him to comment on that concept.
Bruce.
Certainly. So that the council's aware, the CRMC gives notification to the town clerk as well as myself, of any pending CRMC issue. From a perspective of the location of the respective aquaculture farms, one of the very first things we always do when we get a notice is I send it out to my members and ask if certain people that are on our commission are very good about identifying the lawns and making sure the maps line up so that you do have a plan that identifies where it is. I share Councillor Donna Cook's concern about notification, and I've expressed that to Coastal. And indeed, the frustrating thing is that when they're trying to act in good faith, their obligation in their regulations does not include coming to our meeting, to the coastal meet, to the Harbor Commission meeting. They are supposed to reach out, but there's no specific way. They do it and they coordinate through us and whatnot. I was talking this afternoon with Ben Goach because I got a number of, and he's the contact at Coastal for Harbor Aquaculture. I received a number of emails at my office of the type that Councillor Cook was talking about. And the hearing, the formal hearing on this is in fact the 22nd of June. Ironically, on Wednesday, the 23rd, there's a special task meeting, which I have a conflict I can't be on. I'm going to talk to my members and say who can go, about how aquaculture can better interact with the communities. And in talking with Mr. Ghosh today, we were, and I apologize to him for bollocksing his name, talking about how do you get notices to, you know, the people who in essence abut the aquaculture site. And I was suggesting to him, I said, do you take the riparian lines, which are the property lines of a given property, and extend them out into the water. That's your riparian right. You have the water rights, if you will, in that area. It's yours. Not exclusively. Everything we do on the water past high water mark is with the blessing of CRMC only. They control it. It's all state public land. The bottom of the Sakonnet River is owned by the state of Rhode Island, not by Tiverton, not by individual private owners. Until they get to the federal navigable channel, then it becomes federal land. Excuse me. In the instant matter, it was reviewed several times by the commission, and the issue of fishing did come up, and it actually moved out. People did not realize, and it was not brought forward to us, about the idea of fishermen wading in and casting from a 2 or 3 or 4 feet of water when there's fishing. And I guess this is done because it gets you out in a better fishing area. I am not a fisherman. I am a sailor and boater. My brother's a fisherman, and I'm sure he'd tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about, but it is what I was relayed to us lately. However, in this instance, the Bowens had come forward to us with one application. They radically changed the application because originally they were going to try to maintain it being in the water themselves, and they moved it outboard. It was before us, I would say 3 or 4 times or more before we gave them an approval. And not that it's an approval per se, it's just our comment to Coastal that we don't have an objection. Nothing prevents every public citizen, including the members of my commission, to be speaking at CRMC on the 22nd, and I encourage them to do so. But there's a concept called administrative finality. Everyone talks about bureaucracy. We're all administrative aspects of the management of the town. We're just a little micro component of it, but nonetheless, we do have that input. They had been before us. The administrative finality means you can't keep bringing something up again. You can imagine how frustrating that would be. But it is my intention to develop a bit of a position paper for myself, and I'm going to ask somebody else to provide it on the 23rd to Coastal about the idea that people that abut the waterfront, now they're not within in coastal in zoning and planning, they could develop a radius, and they take your land, they do a radius, generally 200 feet around it, and anybody that's in that radius gets specific written notification. most of the aquaculture applications are greater than 200 feet off the shore, which is one of the things that Ben was pointing out. And I said, but Ben, you're still in essence abutting, and it's a radical change in the use of the water. It is going from a recreational open public use to an exclusionary personal commercial use. And while they'll say, yes, you can kayak across it, I can't run my sailboat through it because I draw 6 feet of water. Nobody can run their powerboat through it because they got their props running. And fishermen have fish that like get tangled in the line. So there's really good justification for forcing the applicant to undertake the burden of giving public notification in the form of a map published in the local newspaper, the Secana Times or the Portsmouth Times or wherever the application is. And it's an added expense. They've been using maps online, but as was pointed out, who goes online and checks out everything that's going on in CRMC? They don't. They don't think about it. I don't check it all the time. So, I mean, I feel for the people that are expressing their opinions. I know the Fisheries Council didn't give a thumbs up or thumbs down on it, and it was actually remanded to them before it came back to Coastal for the Coastal's ultimate approval of this. So, I mean, that's the venue where, that's actually the only venue that has real teeth here. It's Coastal. The other ones that give permission. That's where they can have their biggest impact. And they may go back and say, hey, relook at this. We want to have this issue addressed. I don't know. They can remand it. They're the arbiters of the ups or downs on it. But in terms of notification, I agree with Ms. Councilor Cook that there needs to be notification, but changing the town law, and I think putting the burden on the town is, if you do it for the aquaculture, are we going to do it for every other individual action that takes place? It shifts the burden into the improper spot. I don't want to put the burden on the town to do that, because I've been at times tempted to call people up and say, hey, but I realize the moment I do that, I'm then putting a liability on myself for not doing it when it happens to, Jay or to Deb or to Mike Marcello. I mean, other than Mike doesn't count, but you got to be careful how you undertake these burdens. That's the problem.
Okay, so I hope we cleared up with the participants and the letter writers that we are not the ones that are going to make this decision this evening. That the hearing for the CRMC is June 22nd.
That's correct.
Okay. Chris?
So just, and I don't want to belabor this issue, but under a prior council agenda item from Donna Cook, Mike Marcello and I and Donna met with CRMC and alluded to the concerns that the town had about some of these applications. So we did address the issues of running commercial businesses off beachheads, and if they're going to do this, they have to do it off of commercial docks. They have to do it from out in the water, that they can't egress onto people's properties. And CRMC was very, very receptive to all the concerns that we had about doing these things in rural residential neighborhoods off the water, and that we had concerns about that, and that we would hope that they would be addressed. And they do get addressed at like our Harbor Commission meetings and at the CRMC meetings. So, we've kind of put some allay of the fears into that so that CRMC would address those. But I agree with Bruce Cox that this should not be the responsibility of the town to provide notice to butters. It should be on the applicants to do this through CRMC. It should be a process through CRMC that they notify the abutters. It's just, there are times that CRMC can do administrative oversight that our Harbor Commission may not even know about it, or the town. So it becomes an unfair burden on behalf of the town to do something that we shouldn't be doing.
And also, right from the beginning, the definition of who the abutters would be, I don't know that the town could really do that. The CRMC would have to do that with the maps, and I wouldn't want to miss anybody. So I think it would be an unbelievable task for us to take over. And when abutters need to be notified because of projects, the people who are doing the projects are the one that pays the cost. The town clerk does identify the abutters, but they're the ones that are responsible for the postage and to make sure that they go out. I have people raising their hands.
So do you want me to bring them in individually?
Yeah, bring Kenneth Mendez.
Hang on.
Welcome, Mr. Mendez. You have a question for us?
Mr. Mendez, are you there?
Yes, sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so, sorry, double mute. I appreciate the discussion, and I also attended the Harbor Commission meeting, and I just have a couple questions. One is, the application, it's been moved around a lot, but the application does say it will use private land to access the oyster farm because it had been moved around a couple. So a couple things. One is, it's been moved a couple of times since the submission, so that's new. But the other is, as part of that, they mentioned that they will access it by boat because they couldn't use the state land, but they also said that they reserve the right to use private land. And again, per what some of the comments were, there was no disclosure on what that private land would be. But if that private land happened to be within Tiverton, I was wondering whether that's within the jurisdiction of Tiverton regulatory authorities to say whether or not they could use that. And then my final request or point is just based on hearing some of the public comment in the first three letters, and I think that there are more, whether there's any way that the town council can represent some of what's happened in this meeting to the CRMC in some sort of formal letter, both to mention the inadequacies of the disclosure and use this meeting and the flurry of activity and letters you've just received upon notification on how this is concerning for the town council and the resident representing the voice of the occupants and the community, and that the CRMC should put this on pause until a better solution can be found or more public comment can be taken per what one of the earlier letters suggested. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just a suggestion is I would hope that you attend the CRMC meeting and voice your concerns, just in case such a letter does not exist by the time of that meeting. So I'll bring in the next applicant of the hand.
Yeah, just one point. My first question was, does Tiverton have authority if they're using private land to have some jurisdiction over it and not the CRMC?
So if they're running a commercial business off of private lands, there would be jurisdiction. And that's the reason why we spoke to CRMC about the abilities that they should not grant access to these oyster farms from lands in a residential neighborhood, that they are required to use commercial docks and commercial boats only from the water.
Well, they mention in the application specifically that they are reserving the right to use private land.
Applications, but CRMC has heard us loud and clear on this, that it would be a violation for them to run a commercial business off of a beachhead to private property.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Mendez?
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate your patience. Thank you.
Oh, it's fine. Thank you.
So M&P of Driftwood, I'm not sure who that is, but I know you have.
Hi, yeah. This is Michelle and Paul Camera. Hello. We live at 121 Driftwood Drive. Thank you for having me at the meeting. I think I might be the youngest resident in our community. But so this impacts me the most because I'll be here the longest. And everyone made various interesting points regarding this about the oyster farm, but my greatest concern is that Ben Ghosh, I spoke with him today, and he doesn't take us seriously. I asked him what an oyster farm was and how it impacts our community, and he thought it was a joke. Honestly, and I just wanted to let you all know that the CRMC doesn't care about us. And also, I asked what the purpose of having an oyster farm here was, an aquaculture, and he said, well, it's for the Tiverton students to learn. Well, I'm a student here, and I'm confused because all I'm learning from this is that this is detrimental to our community and also our waterways. Has anyone asked the students here?
You a high school student?
No, I'm actually getting my master's degree in organizational and industrial psychology. So from what I've heard, this is the most disorganized industrial and psychological project I have ever seen.
Okay, thank you. Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. So thank you for your time. I also want to know if you care, if the committee cares.
Yes, we do. And we'd appreciate it if you would contact the CRMC and voice your concerns at their meeting where they would weigh in on this.
Okay. Do you support aquaculture here or not? Because right now we're deciding, do we need to just put our house up for sale?
Well, I don't think it's us to support or not support, Michelle. As you understand, that is state-owned property. So the residents can give their opinion, but the town council has no vote in this.
Okay, but do you have our backs? I need to know if we're all on the same team.
I think if you have been listening to all of our comments, many of us, you'll realize that we have some very valid concerns about this. And yes, we have your back. However, we don't have too much legal horsepower. In other words, we cannot prevent it. We can give our opinion. We can advise citizens to give their opinions. But beyond that, I'm sure our attorney could tell you this, we don't have a lot of chips in the game.
Oh, but we do have a town attorney.
Yes, so that would be me. And the Rhode Island statutory scheme is Rhode Island General Laws 20-10-15, which governs the siting of aquaculture within the state of Rhode Island. And if you take a look at that statute, it clearly indicates that the authorization and permitting of any aquaculture in shoreline is the complete jurisdiction of the CRMC and not the town or city that may abut the waterway. There is provisions for public comment and whatnot, part of their regulations. And the gentleman that you did speak with, Mr. Goach, has actually spoken with myself, Ms. Cook, and Ms. Cotter on several occasions on other projects that have been proposed. But under that statutory scheme that I indicated, anybody has the right to make a proposal for an aquaculture. That permitting process is handled by CMRC exclusively, as has been indicated. They may reach out to different communities like the Harbor Commission for their input, but those are advisory opinions. And then based upon those advisory opinions and of course, public comment, CRMC will make a final determination whether or not the proposal meets within their regulatory and statutory framework. So as the council members have said, and Mr. Carter has indicated, who's the town administrator, other than putting our public input and whatnot, the ultimate decision is not in the town's hands.
So what I understand from what you're saying is that the residents of Tiverton have zero legal rights to do anything about this.
No, I did not say that. I said that the residents of the town of Tiverton, if they have concerns, are to the body that they need to express those concerns is to the CRMC. They have rules and regulations, and they have standards that they must follow and meet when granting or denying an application. So it is citizens' jobs or to make sure that your opinion is heard and to make sure that they are following the regulatory framework that is set out for them. So again, there's a whole statutory scheme, which I urge you to look at Rhode Island General Laws 20-10-15, and it'll show you the legislative framework which the CRMC must act under when deciding whether or not a aquaculture proposal is proper under Rhode Island law.
So would you write up an injunction letter to make the business owners stop? Because that's going to take me quite a while to read all of Rhode Island law.
It's only a very small section, and the answer to your question is I would have no standing to write an injunction letter against them because, as I indicated, the only regulatory body is not the town of Tiverton, it's the CRMC.
So you won't write an injunction letter to the CRMC to stop?
No, he won't.
He won't, or he can't?
Both.
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 We don't have the authority to do that, ma'am. That's not within our purview. We can, and as you heard Mr. Cotta state and others state, they have met with the CRMC on several occasions, expressed the concerns that they've heard. And one of those concerns is regarding, and Mr. Cox had mentioned this, regarding the notification to abutters and coming up with a regulatory process, at least for the future, that allows that. At this time, this has been going on. This application is in, I think, the last phases of their processes. And in terms of regulatory, I don't know all the rules that they have around aquaculture. What I can say is something equivalent is if somebody wanted to put a business within a certain zone in Tiverton, and that business was allowed in that zone, and they did everything they need with their application and the like, even, then there's very little that the town could do to stop that business from going in that zone, because that's the regulatory scheme. And just as the residents have rights, businesses have rights as well. And nobody's expressed, I think, any opinion on whether or not aquaculture in and of itself is a good or bad thing. This has been discussion about the process that's been used.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's a huge problem. No one has brought up aquaculture.
All right, I'm going to move on because there's other people that would like to speak. But thank you for your comment.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, the next one is Jean Souza, I guess. Hello, Miss.
Okay. Hey, Denise, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to say a lot of great comments have been made and it's truly appreciated. I own the property at 697 Sepauwett Avenue. So my neighbor is Ricky Metcalf and then the Abers and many others. And until Liz and Ken Mendez, had brought us in the loop this week, not realizing we didn't know, I had no idea. And this is literally my backyard. So where this oyster farm is going to go, and Ricky, it's literally in front of us. I could walk right out to it. It's unfortunate. I know, I understand all of the jurisdiction and all of your comments, but as taxpayers, we live in a community that's on the water, and the properties on the water pay a premium. I realize you don't have jurisdiction over the water, and this is a situation we can work on to do with notifying abutters if it's possible. But if there's a way, Chris, you mentioned, if there's any chance a letter could be sent before next Tuesday, just to kind of help show some support. It's difficult that if you can't research every day what's going on to protect your property on permits, and people don't have time and they work, and that this can come as a surprise and change your existence on your own property for commercial profit. So if there's any way, the protection we can get from the town, since you can't oversee the water, that you could just help maybe put this letter together, and I'll send a letter too. I'll be part of the Coastal Resources meeting, but it's like we don't have a leg to stand on when we don't have enough time to defend ourselves and defend our property. And more so, not to do with values, but just the quality of life that we can no longer enjoy when this goes in. And that, so for your agenda item, Donna, it's perfect that I think all the points you made are so important. And if, even that fact that it made it through the Harbor Commission, not everybody pays attention to what's on the agenda. And if we could get on an email list that we get items that could affect us. I know the addresses are there. We pay our taxes. You know who the abutters are on Sepauwett Avenue. So if it's Watapa Pond or not near Naquacket Pond, you know who the taxpayers are. I feel like we should be on some kind of like a warning list. I know you might not be able to, approve the outcome, or change the outcome, but any kind of something that we can help defend ourselves would be very important. So I just want to thank all the comments, and the letters are great. All your comments are great. We know you care, but there has to be a way to not let this happen.
So, Chris, this is Mike. I can tell from the list of participants that there is a member from the CRMC who's listening to this meeting, but I will be happy to draft a letter up for either the town council president or the town administrator to sign based upon the letters and comments we have tonight regarding their application. So we can get that in by next week.
Thank you.
I think that's fine, Mike. I would just say that while you have concerns, like you think you're at your wit's end with this and that you have no voice, the hearings that we have had before CRMC, especially as it relates to Nanaquacket Pond, and actually some along the riverfront, when they were in the middle of mooring fields and other places where there was a conflict of other uses for those particular venues. CRMC does listen and they do act accordingly. So don't think simply because you're alone that your voice does not matter. It does matter. They were very, very receptive to listening to the concerns we've had when they were going to place one of these oyster farms in the middle of a mooring field to move it. Or those areas in Nanaquacket Pond where there is extensive multi-use of recreation, commercial fishing, recreational fishing, and all those things. They listen to people. So it's sometimes, even if it's just a letter from the town, it may fall on deaf ears. It's being vocal and being yourself as a constituent. You need to be active to protect the things that you want.
I totally agree. And you can't be active if you're not aware. So I think that becomes.
We don't have control over this. That's the issue. And I think we've tried to explain that a number of times tonight, that we may not know when these things happen. And when they do, as you say, as you look through some of these applicants, they change things, they move the latitude and longitude, it puts to put the onus on the town to deal with something that has no jurisdiction in this matter. It does make it ridiculous. The applicant himself or herself should have the obligation to notify the abutters.
If it's all right with the council, I'll have Attorney Marcello write up something from us and I will sign it. Is that okay with everyone?
Please do.
Yes.
Can we ensure that includes strongly recommending that they change their policies and or regulations around communicating with abutters?
Right.
Right. And that was, I assume that Mike will include all the important comments this evening and what everybody noted. Donna, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Thank you, Mike. I was going to Mike B. I was going to comment on that. I was just going to comment to, it looks like this neighborhood that's going to be impacted, that maybe they should have a water watch or someone watching the CRMC site to see what's coming and notify everyone. They could, put something together where they have someone that does that and then sends out an alert that can be done by citizens themselves. I still think as a town, we really need to do something. The first step, of course, is having our solicitor help us out here, help our citizens out. And I would like also the Harbor Commission is I think one of the first people that are notified that there's a new application. And maybe that's a point where they could contact Mr. Carter and put an alert on our town website that goes directly to CRMC site for that application. That those are just a number of things I was thinking.
Neighborhood watch sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on.
Madam President, and I would just like to underscore that again, and that's all great, and I think important, but each individual is able to, and maybe Mr. Ghosh, if we have him talk about it later, the commission should have a practice where they keep a list of interested parties who want to be notified of anything and everything that they do regulatorily, public hearings and the like. And if you get on that list, you might get more than what you want, but you'll get what you want.
Mike, does that list exist now?
Every agency should have one. I know that from experience. And generally, again, it's usually these days done by email. But it doesn't have, you can still get notified otherwise.
Could Mr. Marcello, could he also ask where the people could put their name, and then we could put that out there somehow that this is where they need to send their name, that then they'll be notified by the CRMC when there's something in Tiverton going.
I'll get that information from the CRMC. Yes, I'll ask that tomorrow.
Okay.
I do think that the overall scheme, and I don't want to belabor what's already been said, not the scheme, the overall problem, the best way to solve this problem, in my opinion, is to seek legislative changes through the General Assembly to require CRMC, when they are dealing with a project that maybe abuts a city or town, that somehow they have a more stringent notification requirement, or at least, as Mr. Cox has indicated, they maybe take out a publication in a local paper showing the map and a list of abutters or something to that effect. So, but again, that's down the road. I would be reluctant to have the town weigh in and start notifying people based upon an application that we have no control over, because we might be setting up ourselves for if a person doesn't get the proper notice, and we would have, and the fact that we notify the abutters or whatever, it doesn't mean that the notice is really irrelevant. Doesn't have any legal meaning to anybody. It's just that we'd be doing it as a courtesy, and I would really not sure who would pay for it. And number one, we couldn't ask the applicant to pay for it because it's not part of their the application process. And number two, I would be concerned that we wouldn't have all the accurate information that we need to send such a notice. But we'll think that there's a lot of solutions here, and I think I agree with Mr. Cotter, and I know, Donna, you've had a meeting with Mr. Getch, that they have been very helpful and receptive when we did raise concerns.
Right. One more thing. As far as the General Assembly, it does say in the Constitution here that they are the ultimately responsible. I don't know why they handed it off to the CRMC, but because it's saying right here that they're supposed to be doing this. So it's almost like they handed it off to the CRMC, and then, they don't have to worry about it somehow. But they do have to worry about it because people are finding that they're not notified and they're losing their water rights, their fishing rights, their recreational rights.
Chris, I see that Mr. Getch has his hand raised.
Does Mr. Getch have his hand raised?
He's from CRMC.
Yeah, I'm going to, do other members in the audience also have their hand raised?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right, because this could go on all night, guys. Okay, Mr. Getch, would you like to say something? Because
Yeah, just two things real quick. Thank you, Madam President. One is that, yes, to Councilman Burke's point, you can write an email to the the general administration email address for CRMC is cstaff1@crmc.ri.gov. That's letter C, staff1@crmc.ri.gov, and to be requested to be put on a notification list of aquaculture applications. And I just also wanted to highlight something that Chairman Cox said earlier. We are having our first meeting of our aquaculture working group, and this is for the Narragansett Bay Special Area Management Plan. So this is a bay-wide effort involving all the towns, different interested groups, resource users, fishing groups. It's a pretty large project. We have about a 30-person working group right now. I believe Jen McCann should have reached out to the town from the Coastal Resource Center at URI. Our first meeting will be June 23rd, I believe at 4:30. Mr. Cox has that information. I believe we asked the town, we sent it to the administrator at Tiverton address for a couple participants from the town. I think no more than 2 or 3 maximum. We're trying to keep the group to a manageable size, but this is an effort that's being undertaken to essentially create a plan for future aquaculture expansion throughout the bay and the Sakonnet River. And things like notification issues that we've been talking about tonight have come up in the past and may likely be a topic addressed through this working group, which would then make recommendations to the CRMC for future regulation changes. And the main product of this effort, though, will be a map that kind of has areas that are has information about potential conflicts in certain areas. And we invite certainly members of the public after the working group phase. We're going to have a big public rollout, and more likely than not be doing geographically targeted public meetings throughout the state to the various communities. And hopefully by then it will be back to in-person meetings. But for right now, we are having our first Zoom meeting on the 23rd. And that is it's not a public meeting, it's a working group meeting. I just want to make that clear. But other than that, I'm also happy to take calls from the public. I've taken a few today already. So I am the point of contact for aquaculture at CRMC, just so that's clear. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay, does anyone else in the audience have anything to add?
And
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Cynthia. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yes, I understand and appreciate that the town of Tiverton may have no major role in this because it is part of the coastal. However, the town of Tiverton does have considerable effect on the zoning in terms of residential to light commercial, and also tax abatement for those folks who may be impacted by their waterfront property, which is highly taxed, if I may. So I'm not sure that this is necessarily just only the coastal problem. I think it also has some effect on the Tiverton sort of tax and zoning laws. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Anyone else? No.
I think that's it.
Who's this Gail?
Yeah, that's new. That just happened. Hang on.
My only comment is thank you for spending this much time on something that's clearly important to many people. And I do think the appropriate thing for some of us to do is to contact our representatives at the state level, because we clearly need action that is going to trickle down and have an impact on CRMC that the rest of us are powerless. Even as a council, you cannot affect change. But maybe if we send letters to those representatives and express our concern and our distress, that would also have some way to move the needle on this. And that's all I wanted to say. And thank you again for your considerable attention and thought. This is an important issue.
Thank you, Gil, and that's a really important point. I think Will Mendez is raising his hand again.
Are you going to allow repetitive? I can bring him in again.
The other one was Ken Mendez. So this may,
Oh, this is someone different, you think?
I think so. So I bring him in just to make sure.
I think
Yes. My name is Will Mendez. Thank you for the time, and I'll try to be brief and succinct as this issue has been litigated. I think today you're just hearing the frustrations of your citizens on two things. One, that they want to make sure that the town of Tiverton, Tiverton's opinion is represented to the CRMC, which I think the letter from Mr. Marcello resolves in terms of having your residents be advocated for on the town's behalf. And then the second is ensuring this issue doesn't happen going forward. This clearly, I understand there's issues trying to mark, but the application including accessing the land from the Oyster farm for private land. So clearly the neighbors should have been informed as butters, given it would involve commercial use through residential property, even if the CRMC may decide not to grant that as well. I think in the 21st century, the cost of notification, sending out emails is cheap. And clearly it went through the Tiverton Town Harbor Commission, which did approve, but it seems as if the Town Harbor Commission didn't hear from a lot of key stakeholders. So perhaps the town could, in the future, withhold approval from the Harbor Commission until abutters have been informed in order to get the community's stakeholder voice.
Thank you. I think that's it, correct? Okay. I guess we'll keep going. Board of Licensing, Greg Cousin-elected, Kayak Bass Nation of Rhode Island, 1005 West Shore Road, Warwick, request approval for fishing tournament permit on drinking water supply reservoir, Stafford Road, on June 26, 2021, from 5:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Do we grant this permission? Chris, you're on mute.
I believe we do after DEM grants permission. So we'd have to make sure that they've met the DEM requirements.
Yeah, because we usually, I'm not even sure if we do grant permission. This was a big question a while ago.
Right, but I do believe the DEM does grant them, and then they just seek town approval after they get DEM approval.
Okay, so is this gentleman in the audience?
I don't see his name in there.
Okay, so we'll have to, well, this is June 27th. This is coming up.
Yeah, real quick.
Does the backup? I don't, I'm looking at the backup to see if he noted whether or not, yes, he did get it.
Yeah, I think it's the same tournament that we canceled last year because of COVID.
Yes.
And I do believe that DEM would have approved it for this year.
Yeah, it's right here. It was approved. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Well, do we approve it or do we just acknowledge that we know about it?
Well, Chris is telling me we approve it.
I think we approve it just so that the fire department is also aware of it, just in case something does happen. They know there's something going on in the water.
Okay. Make a motion that we approve the Bass Nation of Rhode Island event at the pond, at the reservoir.
Do I have a
Second. Second.
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor, Jay,
Yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
and I'm a no. So 6-1. Justin Texera requests to use town land senior center parking lot on July 4th, 2021 as parking lot for a wedding. Have we approved this wedding?
I
I don't think we have.
It may be one that we don't need to approve.
Okay.
It may be small enough that, because
So
I know-
what is the liability of letting them use our parking lot, Mike? It's suppose somebody gets hurt.
No different than any other parking. It's a public parking lot.
Yeah.
You have an obligation to keep it safe. If it's not safe, they could sue us whether they use it or not.
Any
It says
questions?
here they have insurance.
Huh?
Yeah.
The applicant certifies that he has commercial general liability insurance with a minimum of 1 million coverage.
Yeah.
And of course, what does our senior center director have to say about this?
Well, it says that, all she says is, there's something from her that says there are no events
got it.
planned at the senior center that day.
Yeah, I got it.
So
We would continue to maintain insurance on the property that would be covered if someone were to get hurt.
Yes.
He
No
has, it says he has liability
Yeah,
insurance.
it does.
Well,
But so do we.
Commercial general liability. It's on the 4th of July, so the senior center's closed.
Yeah. Well, so we also have insurance, so.
Correct.
So it should be
Okay, entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. So the
I'll
motion,
second it.
the motion is to allow Justin Texera to use the senior center parking lot on July 4th, 2021 as a parking lot for the wedding. A motion to be made by Jay Edwards, seconded by Councilor Perry. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
Madam President, can I ask a question? And it's probably put my ignorance on display, but when we approve weddings, it's just because there's a sound variance
Yes.
or
Yes,
stuff like that?
yes, it would be the sound variant. It's basically because of the sound variant.
That's it.
Am I right, Joan?
Yeah, and also if they have a tent, they also need to get
Yeah,
another
tent.
permit for tent.
Or
Um,
food?
Yeah,
Okay. But a regular backyard wedding, we
right.
could care less.
And did we, correct me, Joan, didn't we need to have certain things in place because of COVID during the height of that?
Yeah.
Sizes and things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was last year, beginning of this
Right,
year. But
right.
they've been lifting the restrictions, so
Correct.
Finally.
a lot of people are getting married.
Yeah.
Okay, that's done. 8A, Personnel Board, 5-member board, 4-year term, 1 vacancy. Eugene Reposer, 413 Hooper Street, request new appointment to expire 10/15/24. Welcome, Eugene.
Eugene, can you hear us?
I don't have his application. Does anyone have that?
I
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
I
in our
got it.
packet.
Yeah, never mind. Eugene, are you here? He's raising his hand. I don't know.
No. Eugene, can you hear us? Is
You
your
can-
is
you
your
can
microphone
talk.
muted?
Wait. Eugene, do you hear us?
Hello, Eugene, can you hear us? Can
I
you,
don't think,
if you can't hear us, press F1. Function
if you can't hear us.
You can hear us. Wave.
And your microphone would be function F4 if your microphone is off.
I'm trying to.
Somehow you're muted, even though it doesn't say muted, Eugene. I'm not sure. We can't seem to communicate with you.
Chris, you want to have him call in? You can call in.
Hang on. Yeah, Eugene, can you call me at 625-6710?
Or you can just call the Zoom number.
Well, if he just calls my office phone, I can put him on speaker.
I don't think he can hear us.
He can hear us.
Okay.
Hello, Eugene.
Yes, it is. I'm trying to do everything under the sun with this. I'm not used to Zoom.
That's okay. He's got you on speaker through my phone.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Can everybody hear Eugene?
Technology.
Can you
Yes.
Hi, Eugene, it's Denise. Could you tell us why you're interested in being on the personnel board?
Well, I was interested probably 30 years ago when they first started, but I just got, heavily involved with family stuff and, and I sit on the juvenile board presently, but kids have been good since COVID came and I can give them something else to do. Well, hire the best candidates that's for the town of Tiverton, and try to do my best to my ability.
All right, thank you. Does any counselor have any questions? Because we have one opening and one applicant, we can waive our policy if somebody would like to do that.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to waive our policy to appoint to committees. And seconded by Counselor Edwards. All those in favor, Counselor Edwards,
Yes, and thank you for volunteering for yet another one.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes, and thank you.
Counselor Burke.
Yes, and Gene, good to sort of see you and hear from you, and thanks for your ongoing commitment to Tiverton.
Thank you.
Counselor Janik,
Yes, and another thank you.
Counselor Perry,
Yes. Thank you, Gene.
and I'm a yes, but now we have to nominate him. You just went.
I'll make a
true.
motion to nominate-
You really
I'll
didn't
make a-
put him on there yet, guys.
I'll make a motion to nominate Eugene Reposa to the Personnel Board
Second.
Okay.
to
now I have
expire 10/15 of 2024.
Thanks, Joe. And I have a second by Counselor Vieira. All those in favor, Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Janik,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And now I will thank you on behalf of
Thanks.
everyone.
Thank you, members of the council, and I'll try to do my best and to the best of my
Thank you, Eugene, but you better learn how to do Zoom in case you have to do Zoom meetings with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to teach you.
do everything else, and I said, look.
You have enough grandchildren who can help you.
Yeah.
You learn to love Zoom like we do.
Yeah. Hopefully you won't have to do this though.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Eugene. Good night.
Acknowledgement of resignation. This is Sherry Ackrey from the Budget Committee, effective June 4th, 2021. I'll do it as a pair since they are a pair. And Thor Ackrey from the Budget Committee, effective June 4th, 2021. I'd like to thank the Ackreys for the dedication. Being on the Budget Committee is a very difficult job, as we all know as we watch it. I'd like to thank them for all their work and hope the best for them.
I'd like to thank Sherry for her years of devotion that she served with me on the budget committee, and it was much appreciated.
Okay. Moving on, Administrative Carter, approval of budget transfer $5,000 from account 8830-5114 Recreation Director to account 8790-5181 for beaches seasonal employees.
So we were running short in the gate attendants and lifeguard monies for this year, and we had some money on the director's account. So I talked to Stu about moving some monies, at least to get everybody paid through June. We think this will work for now.
I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Motion
Second.
made by Councilor
Second.
Perry, seconded by Councilor Burke. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Administrator Carter, Chief Jones, approval of budget transfers. $35,000 from account 3330-5101 salary to account 3330-5104 overtime. $5,000 from account 3330-6928 education to account 3330-7590 IT computer expenses. $33,150 from account 3330-6667 operations to 3330-7590 IT computer expenses. Any questions on any of these items? I'd like to entertain a motion. I believe we can do it as a group.
Moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Vieira. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you. Councilor Edwards, discussion of recent letters from Tax Assessor's Office dated May 21st, 2021, changing previous property assessments provided as of April 2021. Welcome, Dave. Jay, I'll have you introduce the subject.
Okay, so as Dave knows, we've already had a brief discussion about this. This all started when one of my neighbors called me up and wondered why they got a second evaluation. Everybody in town got one dated, I believe, 16th of April, and normally that is the one you get, and that's the one you live with, unless you do a challenge. Then other ones went out apparently in May 12th, I believe. And the way it read, actually, I sent everybody a copy of one. And it basically says, please note that the Tiverton real property reevaluation project for 2020 is now complete. During the final phase, informal hearings were conducted, and as part of the discovery process, certain properties were changed in value. By receiving this letter, we are alerting you that your property fell into this category. So what started this was the individual that I talked to said, well, we did not make an appointment to challenge our evaluation. So what is this all about? So I called Dave, and he told me what he told me. And then subsequently, I talked to a few other people, and they got a different slant on what happened. So my whole purpose in doing this is not to put Dave Robert, our tax assessor, on the spot, but in a public forum to get the real word on what happened, why did it happen, and I'd also be curious to know how many properties did this happen, and what basically what was the average increase. So having said all that, we have Dave here, and Dave, you're in the hot seat.
Thank you. Yes and no, as far as being the hot seat, I'm on the seat of being in a position that I'm not very happy with. I will tell you that. I do want to correct one little thing though. Typically what happens with revaluations, whether it's a full revaluation or a statistical update, is that once residents are notified of their assessment, and looking at the letter now in hindsight, it really should state that it's a preliminary number that's provided. Because what happens is once we send out that letter, residents have the opportunity to discuss their value with the revaluation company. And in that process, those individual assessments will be addressed, what their issues are, and they will receive a letter stating whether or not there's been a change or not. However, during that process, if there is something that's discovered in a neighborhood, and I'll give you an example in a moment, those people, although they did not have a hearing, let's say in this particular case, this example I'm going to give you, we will send them a letter because we changed their assessments as well because of information discovered or gathered during the informal hearing process. So for instance, Ford Farm, the homes on the upper end towards Main Road, we discovered that there was a land pricing error during this informal hearing process. So all of those homes, although the bulk of them, I don't know exactly the number, did not have a hearing, we did change their assessment and they were notified. So they receive a second letter, and that would be anything else similar to that, that during that informal hearing process, if we do discover something that applies to multiple properties, we will send out letters to those property owners that did not in fact have a hearing. In this particular case, it's much more extensive, and I'm terribly frustrated by it. And I'm going to have Dr. Danny Duchamp from New England Revaluation explain it in a moment. We'll call him on in. But basically, it's the same story for everyone. So if your neighbor had one story and maybe you got something from someone else, it's all the exact same thing. So they may have just either conveyed it to you incorrectly or just heard something different. And it could have been a different situation with the neighbors. It could have been a different issue. But the bulk of the issue, which is a significant one, because it applies to many, many properties, during the informal hearing process, New England Revaluation discovered that one of their tables that calculates assessments in the background was not calculated properly. And this is where I'm going to have Dan come on in to explain that. And then once he finishes explaining, please address any questions that you may have to him. But I do have some follow-up information regarding his testimony. So Dan, the floor is all yours. Danielle,
David, I just have one question. In all this reevaluation letters that people are calling me, and full disclosure, I also received one. Mine didn't go up very much, so it was not much of a point for me, but I also received one. Most evaluations did, all of them went up that I'm hearing.
Correct.
So no one went down, by the way, folks. Everybody went up.
Well, on this particular issue that Dan's going to address, yes, they all went up. However, through the informal hearing process, multiple properties did go down in value because we did make corrections on those properties.
Right, but people who came to these hearings and fought for saying, you know, I don't have 2 bathrooms, I have 1.5 or whatever, their property tax did go up, but the people go down. But the people that were not at these hearings, did not ask for a hearing, all those people that received the letters, their evaluation went up. And I think that's the frustration in town, is that their evaluations went up.
And they didn't do anything to initiate it.
Right, they did nothing to initiate it. And they really, and I'll be honest, this is the first time I ever heard that the first one is a preliminary one. This is the first time I've ever had anyone call me and say, that theirs went up. And they did nothing at all to cause it. Okay, Dan, go ahead.
Okay, can everyone hear me fine?
Yes, I think.
Okay, thank you, Dave, for inviting us to speak, and thank you, members of the council. I would like to apologize for this error. This was on our end. The CAMA computer-assisted mass appraisal system that we utilize has the ability to be very customizable for the different communities. So one of the tables we have decides what areas are used to calculate the size adjustment curves. So what this is as a house gets larger in size, we assess less and less price per square foot for the additional square footage. The value still goes up, but the amount it goes up for each square foot goes down. So we have to configure what areas do we utilize in that calculation so that a 3,000 square foot ranch is lower at a price per square foot than a 2,000 square foot ranch. In this case, the error was that we were including areas that should not have been included into that size adjustment curve. So as an example, we were including things like wood decks into the curve. So if you had two identical ranches, both 1,000 square feet, but one had a deck, that one was actually coming in lower than the identical ranch without a deck. So what we did in this fix was to remove that from the curve. So now those two identical ranches, the one with the deck is slightly more in value than the one without a deck, as you would expect, all other things being equal. So as some of you mentioned, you'd like to know the average change. On average, this raised a property's value by $5,200. This did affect 5,619 properties. And of those, only 796 went up over $10,000. The rest were lower than $10,000, some of them as little as $100. Again, we do our best to find these issues prior to the mailing of the initial letters, but those initial letters are a request for the taxpayers to bring information to us that we may not have had. In this case, we discovered this one when someone informed us they did not have a deck. We removed it from their property and their value went up, which should not have been able to happen. Of course, removing a deck should lower your value.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Dan from the council?
Well, I have just one question, and maybe it's just me. I have a little trouble wrapping my head around the idea of the bigger your house, the lower the square, the more the square foot, the lower the price per square foot. This is a strange concept to me.
No, I usually like to use, which is probably a bad example since I'm a diabetic, but I use a can of Coke as an example, right? You buy one can of Coke, it's going to cost you $1.50. You buy a couple of cans of Coke, you're going to get a discount per unit. So the more cans of Coke, the more square footage you have, the lower price per square foot or the price per unit. So it's a concept that, is generally accepted in the appraisal world. And, if you were to go out and buy, if you got a contractor to quote you the building a house between 100 square feet and 2,000 square feet, the price per square foot is going to be less.
Okay. Like I said, it could be just me having a problem with it.
Right. So in this particular case, you did hear Dan mention that, a few thousand properties were affected by this. Initially, when we sent out the informal hearing notices of people who did have a hearing, and there was either a change or no change, those letters went out after the informal hearings. And when they informed me, the revaluation company informed me of this error in the database, I was terribly frustrated and said, we need to get letters out to those property owners that had more of a significant increase than the others. Like Dan mentioned, there's about 500 homes that have less than $1,000 change of assessment. But regardless, they need to be notified as well, because it wouldn't be fair for them not to be notified prior to the tax bill being issued. So I have informed New England Revaluation that they must mail out these letters to everyone. And I had them come up with a PowerPoint presentation to explain exactly this issue, which I have posted on the website. The letter that they mail out to the property owners will reference the URL, the web address to that PowerPoint if anyone wants a further explanation. And I've also instructed them to open up their telephones for another 3 weeks or so that anyone that does have a concern, they can contact New England Revaluation directly, since it is their error.
I'll make one last comment for me. 5,000 properties is a huge oops.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people in town who got these letters firmly believe that is because somebody in their neighborhood challenged their assessment, used their property as the reason for it. And we've got quite a bit of angst in town about, well, this happened to me because of my neighbors, which apparently is not the case, but it's out there.
Well, I would agree. But actually, in some cases, it is because when someone goes into an informal hearing, they may use a neighbor has a comp, and then we discover that the neighbor's property may be underassessed for any particular reason. But obviously, in this particular case, and I agree with you, Jay, I am terribly upset with this error, especially the fact that it got discovered after the initial letter.
Right.
So it's an embarrassment for my office, and I apologize to residents for this. It should never have happened, but we're trying to address it as best as we can, and we provided the information up on the website.
Madam President.
Yes.
Dave, I think you're putting it mildly. I am extremely angry, Dr. Ducharme. On behalf of our residents, I am curious as to what kind of testing you do with your software before you finalize an evaluation to try to check these things out, because most software is tested numerous times to make sure that something like this doesn't happen. And then secondly, I don't know why we wouldn't put the burden back on you instead of on our taxpayers.
Okay, so first, I'm happy to speak to testing. We do have a number of tests that we have developed over the years for other issues we have run into, issues such as basements larger than the first floor, finished basements larger than basements. We have a whole checklist of items that we have added as we've run into them. Of course, going forward, this is getting added to our suite of tests that we will be performing at every revaluation to ensure this doesn't happen again. That doesn't help us in this case, but we do try to learn from our mistakes and ensure we minimize them going forward. As to putting the burden on us, the issue, as I mentioned, is it's an issue of equity. You have two taxpayers with identical houses, except one has a deck in the back. Without this fix, that person is actually paying less taxes than the person who doesn't have the deck. So we discussed all this with Dave ahead of time, pointing out, we could sit on this error. There's nothing in the system that says we have to fix it, but it is then not fair and equitable to the taxpayers that the ones without the decks are paying extra so that the person with the deck doesn't get this small or to moderate increase that they rightfully should have. And I go through the numbers in that PowerPoint presentation a little more just to show you the sort of number we're talking about. I take 1,000 square foot ranch and I add a deck on the back and show you the effect this had.
So you said that some have $10,000. $10,000 comes out to about $145 tax increase, given the tax rate, give or take. That's not small to many people. I'm sorry, it's not. And I appreciate the equity conversation, but this was your error. It was your error that for whatever reason, you weren't figuring out the deck issue. That seems like pretty common sense from my perspective. You know, if I have a deck on my house, I have a deck on my house. If my neighbor has one, doesn't have one, they don't. And that should have been figured out before. I'm sorry, I don't take your explanation for it. And I'm extremely angry.
I'll be honest with you, Dan. I'm way above average if average is below 10,000. Mine went more than 10,000.
Everybody I talked to.
Quite a
was
bit
over
more than 10,000. So, and the people I talk to, I don't know where you're getting these averages because most of the people I talk to were equivalent to 10 to 20,000.
Right.
So well, the smaller percentage probably isn't calling if you only went up 100. But
Right.
Dan, I mean, Dave and Donna, yes, go. I'm going to let Donna talk, then Dave can answer. Go ahead, Donna.
My question here is that when this problem was found, that we weren't immediately told that there was a problem and explained to us. We're finding out now. I'm not quite sure why this wasn't brought to our attention. It's a very serious problem. And yet it's only because Jay found that there was letters or you got a letter. That's just not a way to do things. Immediately when it was discovered, I think Dave Roberts should have come to us and go, we have a problem and I need to explain it to you. And it wasn't done.
Donna, I agree, because when I got the letter, I did not understand what I was getting at all. And I did call David. But then almost immediately 2 or 3 people called me, and then Jay had told me.
But that's not the way to do it.
It
David
isn't the way to do it. I was pretty surprised.
told us what happened. He should have told us right away.
And I do have to mention that.
But that didn't happen.
Chris Carter did not know either, because I called him and asked him about it, and he had no idea what I was talking about. So, Dave, yeah, go ahead, answer.
Well, like, what is that? That's just crazy.
Okay, if I may. So when I was notified by the revaluation company, I instructed them to mail out the notices to those properties that increased more than $10,000 immediately. So they had the right and the opportunity to contact the revaluation company. But I needed to take a look at it further and find out the full extent of this error and how it impacted everyone and what we can do to address it and how to properly inform the residents and the town council about this issue. So they mailed out the letters. I was waiting for feedback. And to be honest, in my office, we may have gotten 12, 15 calls on this issue. And they were all fully explained. However, I did have a conversation with the revaluation company that we were going to inform everyone, including the town council, and it just happened to be a timing issue. So they sent out the letters. We were waiting for feedback. I instructed the revaluation company to develop a better letter that I needed to approve because their initial letter, and Councilor De Medeiros will, she just said this, the letter was not very good in explaining exactly what happened. So I wanted them to draft a new letter. I wanted to approve it. And then I went on vacation. I came back and the idea was we're going to send out these letters. We're going to put the PowerPoint explanation up on the website. The letter is going to be mailed with everything. And I had full intention of notifying the town council. I actually was going to send out an email to the administrator and the town councilors. But I do want to correct one thing. Although I didn't go into the full detail of it, I did send an email to Chris Carter on May 14th, letting him know that there was an issue that the revaluation company discovered errors with decks and porches and such. At that point in time, I did not know the full extent of it. I was still waiting for some reports from the revaluation company. But I agree. I mean, this whole situation is terrible. It's terribly frustrating. And to address Council Burke, one thing that Dr. Daniel Duchamp probably is not aware of, I have had discussions with Rich Nagel, who is the president of the company, and we are going to be getting credits against the contract amount for this and some other errors.
I want to bring up again that what did you say the average increase was, Daniel?
Yep, so the average increase was $5,200. But again, as Dave mentioned, to date, all we've mailed out are the ones above 10,000. So that's why you've only received the calls from the high value ones. We are preparing this week to mail out all the ones below 10,000. So at this point, everyone who receives a letter from this point on are the ones whose increase is below $10,000.
It is going to hit the fan.
And you said how many houses does this affect?
In total, this affects 5,619 properties.
And how many
$100 or more?
And how many properties do we have in Tiverton? Residential. Well, it's also affected commercial also.
I don't believe this affecting the commercial properties.
So how many residential properties do we have in Tiverton?
So we have roughly 6,500, and like
it's the whole damn town.
Oh no, I totally agree. The part is that it was discovered after the initial letter, and you know, we need to correct this. There had been a very brief discussion about, like Dan said, just letting it sit as is, but that would be unfair, and there would be no equity amongst properties. And people who did not have a deck or garage and that type of thing, they would be paying a higher tax than people who had those items, and that's just not fair. At the end of the day, we are measured by certain standards, and prior to this discovery of this error, we were well within the standards that's set by the IAAO in the state of Rhode Island for revaluations as a measure of accuracy of the assessments. This correction improved that, not drastically so, but it did improve the ratios, and we are more reflective of true market value.
All I can say is I received 52 emails and phone calls, and that's apparently just the tip of the iceberg.
Well, I also have another question. People who went up over 20, that wasn't just a deck.
Couldn't have been.
No. So those.
Because I'm wondering, right, that wasn't just a deck.
No, it wasn't just a deck. They had garages, they had enclosed porches, they had a front porch, they had a patio. So all of those items was calculated in that pricing curve that Dan spoke about. But some of those properties are also ones like I mentioned on Ford Farm. The land assessment there increased on those homes roughly $29,000 because those were coded incorrectly with the land code. So,
how did that happen?
I mean, it's just, you know, that's part of the revaluation process. I mean, unfortunately, you know, mistakes are made, and that informal process helps correct some of those items.
Dave, how old is Ford Farm?
I'm sorry?
How old is Ford Farm?
How old is Ford Farm?
Yeah, how long ago did it get developed?
Yeah, 15 years or so.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there should have been a clear indication that something was grossly amiss if the evaluation from 2017 had a grossly different land value than now.
Correct. And that's, you know.
I mean, the average homeowner, if they went on the GIS website and just dropped down to the land value, would have said, holy crap, what happened?
Yeah. I totally agree with you that, you know, some things like that should not have taken place. You know, unfortunately, you know, we're relying on these revaluation companies with their data and such. And, you know, I'm trying to review as much as I can, but I can't review 8,000 properties, you know, in a 2-month span when I get the data.
Donna?
Do we need to reevaluate everyone's home?
No.
That's my question. Everybody needs to be redone. It just seems random and not done correctly and kind of confusing. It's a lot of money. I'm asking if we need to have a reevaluation by a different company.
Now, again, the ratios and the standards are met. So the revaluation number is good. Again, this glitch or error in their software, the average change, like we mentioned, is around $5,000.
Well, I don't know. I don't seem to trust any of this right now. I just think we need to redo them. I don't have any.
Mike?
Not right. Sounds very confusing. The whole thing isn't right. You have to have trust. It's kind of broken. It's a lot of money.
Mike Burke?
Dave, you've been doing this for, I think, as long as I've been in town, at least 20 years or
15, 16 years here.
Okay.
But overall,
have you, in that time, have we experienced any similar dramatic error as this?
Not to this extent. I do know that when I arrived in 2005, I believe the revaluation prior to that, there was a pretty big uproar about land valuations along the water. And I know that was quite a big deal. And I believe, I don't know the full details, but I believe a lawsuit may have been started or initiated over it. And then it was settled. But I do recall that there was some significant issue at that revaluation, I believe in 2002.
So I agree, Donna, that I have very little faith in this current company. And no offense to you, Mr. Ducharme, but to me, and I'm a layperson in this regard, but it just seems like a fairly obvious thing that should have been caught before letters went out. So I really hope that we take as much consideration as we can, given the contract, as to whether or not we should retain them for the next reevaluation, which I know is not a full evaluation, reevaluation.
Deb?
So the dollar amount that you gave, this is for Dave, the dollar amount that you gave to the budget committee that is going on the ballot as the revenue for the town, is that correct? Is that updated?
Yeah, so when we made this change, when the revaluation committee made the change in values, that was updated, and that was the number that is provided for the budget information. Just keep in mind, though, I mean, when we do that budget estimate of market values of the assessments, we're not 100% done at that point, so it's still an estimate, and generally it's conservative, but this change is part of that estimate. So that budget number is good.
So, but people can still go in and request that it be relooked at, especially given that all these letters are going out to the majority of the town this week. So that may change, right? I'm sorry, Donna, what?
I think it's for $5,000. 10,000 was already went out. How they're doing it.
Right. So approximately 4,000 letters are going out. And again, I'm not trying to diminish it because again, Mike, I'm in your camp. I'm terribly disappointed. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. I've had a dozen conversations in person with the president of the company. Totally unacceptable. I don't have a lack of faith of the final number. I have a lack of faith of their process and how they got there. And again, that's why I have had conversations about amending the contract amount with them. We are already agreed to some credits. I will have further discussions with them. regarding this.
It's
Thank
4,000,
you.
Donna. 4,000 are going out.
Well,
Donna, there's some
more than
people that were,
five.
Donna, there was some people that was well over 20,000.
Yes.
I'm one.
Most of the people I talked to were in the 10 to 20 grand range.
Yeah.
Well, again, the initial letters that we did go out, I wanted those to go out immediately so they could contact the revaluation because those are substantial increases. And some of them, again, were additional issues. So I wanted the revaluation to take full responsibility in handling those calls and directing any residents to contact them.
I almost think that these letters should have had detail why it went up. So I really do, because now you're putting the burden on the taxpayers to do a hearing at the very last moment.
Which probably won't happen until after the FTR.
Well, it's
No.
going to be hard to hear 5,000. Suppose everybody
Correct.
wants a hearing.
Right, right.
A lot of will.
Chris, would you like to weigh in on this?
Poor Chris.
No, I think everything's been said that needs to be said. So
Okay.
I don't see any real resolution to this at this point, other than if Dave is happy, and I don't mean to be happy, if he's satisfied with the FTR numbers that we use for the town's overall valuation, I do think we need to get resolution to these homeowners as to final explanation as to what's going on. And I think Dave and Mr. Duchamp are trying to do that. Again, I agree with Dave. I'm not happy with this either. There's not a whole lot that we can do about it at this point. I don't think revaluing the town using another company at this point would be prudent. As long as Dave is satisfied that the overall valuation through this appraisal process is valid.
Okay. Any other comments from the council?
I'll just say that I think I accomplished my purpose. I don't feel good about it, but at least it's out there.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
If I may.
Dave.
Thank
Yep,
you, Dave.
sorry. One final thought and comment, and again, it just goes back to what I initially said. I'm terribly frustrated and disappointed by this error that was discovered after the initial letters that went out. It is unacceptable. I take responsibility through my office, so I apologize to the residents for this confusion. It's unacceptable. I've been doing this for many years, and this is the first and only glitch that's come through my office. So I'm embarrassed by it, and I'm frustrated by it. So my apologies to everyone concerned, but my assurance to everyone that I am making sure that it is done right, properly, and at the end of the day, everyone's assessment is the fair representation of market value. And Chris is correct. We are within the standards of a ratio study, which measures how accurate the values are, and we're well within those ratio studies. So the values are fine. It's just this little fine-tuned tweak that, again, should have happened prior.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
At this time, I want to just bring something up. This agenda has a lot more to go.
Yes.
And we're reaching 10 o'clock. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm going to have to leave very shortly. And Chris will be leaving very shortly also for vacation. So
vacation.
What I'm asking is, should we continue the general business till another date, maybe tomorrow? And I don't think we have to re-advertise if we continue the meeting and hit the executive portion where Chris has to be here. Do the executive now. I can stay a little bit longer. And then if you're all available tomorrow, maybe continue it to tomorrow, because the rest of this agenda is going to take a while, I think.
Oh,
And
I'll
there's
make that a
people-
motion.
And there's people waiting to speak, and I just think that it's hitting 10 o'clock now. Bill?
I just want to let you know, Peter was not available from the Arts Council, so agenda item 9D. I'm gonna be
Yeah,
withdrawn, so we don't need to continue that either, so.
Okay, but is everyone in agreement? Is that everyone available tomorrow night? And we could probably get this in an hour or so.
I'll be with the Boy Scouts.
So will I.
Well, we'd have 5.
Yeah, I know, but I need my, yeah.
I mean, I imagine
Wednesday night?
I cannot do Wednesday.
Thursday?
I can do Thursday.
Can we do 5 o'clock tomorrow?
I can.
I can
I
do
can
5
do
o'clock
anything you guys want. You know, as you all know, I'm retired, so.
I can't make 5 o'clock. I have a dinner before we go to the
Okay.
ceremony. I can't.
Yeah.
Can these items wait another week and we do it on Monday?
My only question is for Brian. His 2 items, are they time sensitive?
Somewhat, yeah, they a little bit sensitive.
All right, well,
I
we can.
I don't want to push the Foglin off another week either.
All right, so we'll just keep continuing, but I am gonna leave. So,
How about this? Why don't we do the executive session stuff? So Chris can get moving on, and then and you can leave too, and then we can come back to open session to finish up what we need to finish up.
How long do we think exec's going to take?
I don't think it's gonna take that long, to tell you the truth.
But
Are folks able to get back in?
So they'll have to re-sign back in because they'll all have to get out.
Mike, why don't you just continue the meeting without me? I mean, you guys are gonna be here till midnight, at least. I
At
think.
least.
Well, okay, so if that's what you
Unless
want,
we-
then,
Unless we have, well, it's the pleasure of the council.
Right,
so,
right.
Unless we do it on Wednesday. And who couldn't make it on Wednesday?
I can't do Wednesday.
Is that the only?
Can
person?
I suggest the following?
Unless we
Yeah.
do 5 o'clock on Wednesday, then I can do that.
I might be able to do that.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think Wednesday's okay for me, as long as it's 7 o'clock.
I can't do. All right. Good.
So, but Donna, Deb had suggested 5 o'clock on Wednesday.
Oh, no.
Can we do Thursday?
I think Thursday's okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to get into my schedule. And I have to sign my life away.
I mean, it's fine if you guys want to stay. It's
So can I suggest that there are a couple items we might be able to put off, and Chris or whoever knows, we can put off K. So I'm under 9. I assume we can put off J, I, J, K. We could do L and M, but there is some timing on that. I don't think they're going to take that long. And L, M, and N probably won't take that long. What do you think, Denise?
they're all depend. Well, the things I didn't take was gonna take long tonight. You can't really judge my judgment because
Yeah.
it's taken
Okay.
a lot longer than I expected. It's very we're gonna have to shorten these agendas, I guess.
Okay.
I just don't think people expected all those people
Right.
to come from my agenda.
Right.
That's kind of what.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Brian has his hand up. Do we want to ask Brian what he's?
Sure, Brian.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think we still have Sean O'Rourke from Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank ready to join us on item H.
Right.
All right, well, I'm just gonna continue the meeting. Mike, can you handle our items?
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize. I usually have Tuesdays off. I have to be at work very, very early in the morning, which requires me to get up at 3:34, and it's irresponsible of me to work at a hospital with no hours of sleep.
Say goodnight, John boy.
You wouldn't want to be my patient. So.
Night, Denise.
What? I'll be honest with you.
I would. I would.
So, okay, so I'll stay for a little bit longer. My item for discussion and possible vote for authorization to purchase security equipment for Fogland Beach from council contingency. Stu has given us a price.
So just so you know, that price was $11,000. The vendor is on the state's master price agreement. In light of the fact of some of the damage we've seen over the past couple of weeks with the new picnic tables being vandalized and activity still happening down there at night, I would highly recommend that that $11,000 is small money to be paid to ensure the security of the Fogland Beach area.
There was more fires there this weekend, by the way, even though it was on the news that the fires weren't supposed to happen. The police had to go down there for more fires this afternoon.
They used one of the picnic tables for firewood.
Fires.
Yeah.
Campfires.
Campfires,
Well,
which they're told not to have, but they ended up burning one of the picnic tables that very well-meaning volunteers spent a lot of time doing, and I think it's appalling. So I think we need these cameras down
All
there
right.
to watch what's going on. Donna?
All right, I'll make a motion that we fund the security system weather station at Fogland Beach using the town council contingency with a total request of $11,000, $8,000 security system, $2,000 weather station would be available to view via town website matches. What's at Grinnell's? $1,000 internet support for security system expansion.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made in second. All those in favor, Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes.
Counselor Janik,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Town Administrator Brian Jane, approval to submit application to Southern New England Program Grant, $30,000.
So I'm going to give a quick explanation of this. I'll let Brian chime in, but basically we've been working with CRMC and Save the Bay and a couple of others along with DPW, Open Space to mitigate some stormwater management at the Fogland area. We've done a lot of work over the past year and a half or so. We've actually met the match for this grant. And I think Brian can explain where this will go from here. But I think what we're looking to do is get the final grant application in and submitted so that we can actually perform the work that the review had determined needed to be done. And it would be at no additional cost to the town. Brian, you have anything more to add?
That pretty much sums it up. We've done the 60% design so far through funds that CRMC provided.
Yep.
For 18,000, and this is to finish the design and permitting process.
Correct.
And it was a two-part application, and we did the letter of intent, and we're notified that they wanted us to do the full application, which is due in early July 2nd, I believe.
So we basically need council support to move forward is basically where we're at now, right?
Right.
Any questions? I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Donna? Donna, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to know I did. Is it gonna cost any more than $30,000?
We,
It's not gonna cost us any more money at all. We've already made our contribution.
we did get a firm estimate of 34.7, but we still have to negotiate with them on all the details of that estimate. But even with that, we've already covered the matching funds, if that's what it ends up being.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor in a second. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Who did I forget? Donna Cook. I'm very sorry, Donna. I guess I'm getting tired.
It's usually Joe, so.
It's usually Joe, Donna, and I don't know the reason because you're right after me. I don't know. All right, Town Administrator Brian James, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, RIB Municipal Resiliency Program, MRP.
Okay, Brian, I'll let you handle this one with Sean to kind of bring them up to speed on where we're at.
Yeah, is Sean still with us? Do you
Yep.
know?
I just brought him in.
Yes, I'm still here.
Sorry, Sean.
No problem. Thank you.
I just say I learned about this program while I was attending a workshop looking for grant funding. And most of the grants required that the town had already identified and prioritized projects. And I didn't feel that we were at that point, and learned about the MRP process and thought this would be an excellent one for Tiverton to engage in. And we had a preliminary discussion with Chris, Jennifer, and Jay Edwards, and learned that they were willing, despite the fact that the applications were due back in January, to take us into this year's cohort rather than waiting till next year. So with that, I'll let Sean speak to that.
So good evening, Council, and thank you for the opportunity to provide us an overview on the Municipal Resilience Program. And I really appreciate Town Administrator and Councilman Edwards and Brian for the ability to kind of try and work with us here in this round of the program. So the Municipal Resilience Program at the very highest level, and then we can have a chance for some questions if necessary, is a program that works with municipalities statewide in Rhode Island to identify priority projects that are in direct response to some of the climate-driven hazards that municipality is facing. So you can think about sea level rise, storm surge, increasing heat, flooding, many of the issues that Tiverton are facing right now. And Brian mentioned one of the major challenges that we have found across Rhode Island at the Infrastructure Bank is there's no shortage of projects, but when you ask municipalities what should they do first, oftentimes it is, let me get back to you. And so we identified that there is a critical need for a facilitated process to be developed in combination with the town to identify the priority issues that town is facing with the changing climate, and then what priority projects could be done as a result. And then a prioritized list could be developed. And so the Nature Conservancy and the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank developed this process to do exactly that. In one calendar year, the municipality applies to the program, is accepted, a workshop is developed and facilitated by the Nature Conservancy that's called the Community Resilience Building Workshop. That is a grass tops level workshop. Town administrators, council members, organization leads. We typically have between 25 and 45 people at those meetings. It's a half-day meeting. Out of that meeting comes a prioritized list of projects. We develop a summary of findings report for the town, much like Brian was just mentioning, kind of that to-do list. And then the carrot in this process is there is grant money available to the town after they participate to implement on a priority project or a few priority projects to the tune of, on average, about $150,000 to $300,000 per municipality. We currently have 19 municipalities participating. 13 municipalities have completed the project and have been awarded grant funding, and 6 are currently participating to get us to 19. We are off cycle right now, as Brian mentioned, but we would love to have Tiverton in this process this round. So kind of jump right in. And the reason for that is Little Compton went through this process last year. All of Aquidneck Island has completed this process, and all of East Bay has completed this process as well. And we really felt that the opportunity was now, with the grant funding that's coming down the pipe, with the American Rescue Plan, other federal opportunities. We thought having a prioritized list of projects for the town of Tiverton to be able to collectively address your issues, where the timing was right. And so the Nature Conservancy agreed also to provide the resources. If the council feels this is a good opportunity for the town of Tiverton, we would love to work with you in this current round of the program. So I'd love to open it up to any questions that you may have.
Is there any questions from the council?
I don't have a question. I just have a statement. If we have decided that we want to move forward with this, then we need to make sure that what has happened with so many other things like this doesn't happen here, that we actually push it.
I agree. We should have a prioritized list of issues that we should be focused on as a community. And this is a great opportunity for us to move forward to create such a list.
So I guess what I would ask anybody in the council is how would we go about doing that?
Making a list?
Well, okay, so we get together with let's say Chris Cotta, the planner, myself, since I'm part of this, develop a list, present it to the council to prioritize, or say, no, we don't like the list, or yeah, these are all great, and give them a priority and proceed from there.
That sounds like a good idea, Jay. You just developed a process.
I think Jay should be named to it.
Yeah.
Well, we also, I think part of this process, we have to assign a town facilitator. Am I inaccurate in that statement?
You're right.
You are correct. The other thing I do want to make a mention of is this whole process is highly facilitated. So the town should not feel that welcome to the program, good luck. This is very much going to be done in partnership with the town. And we have received numerous compliments across this entire program with towns small and large across the state. And we work very much in lockstep with you at the Infrastructure Bank as well as with the Nature Conservancy. And so this will be done in direct collaboration with the town, and that prioritization and identification of projects will be done directly with you. And so you'll have direct input and you won't feel like you're out on this alone.
What attracted me to this process is that it is so inclusive. It'll be very widespread who is invited to the table to have that discussion.
Correct.
Emergency services, all the various commissions that have an interest.
Yep. Conservation, open space.
Yep.
You know, all the groups that have worked so hard in town and have really, been very vocal about some of the issues that they foresee coming, but really have had no ability to put forth plans to the council for further review as to where our parties actually stand.
Any other questions? So what do you need from us tonight?
Approval to move forward.
A vote to move forward? Okay.
If you approve it, we'll complete the application.
Yep.
So moved.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, obviously, but
All right, motion's been made in second. All those in favor? Councilor Edwards?
yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
And I'm a yes.
Thank
Thank you
Sean.
very much, Sean.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you very much.
At this point, can I entertain a motion to move my item M up before I leave so I can talk on this?
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion.
Second.
Motion's been made in second to move item M up. Councilor Edwards?
Without objection, Madam Clerk, you don't have to do a roll call.
I don't, okay. All right,
No
so
objection.
this is just, as you can see there is an ordinance in front of you that you were given, and I am just asking to go out for advertisement. I will explain the changes. It basically does not tie up the money until it doesn't tie up the money the way we did until 2022. It's so that we can expend the money this year. And one of my reasonings is for this is because we spoke during the budget hearings, Chris and I, we spoke as a council that we wanted to keep the casino money for capital. And we have made it perfectly clear it's not for just municipal capital. It's also for school capital. And as you know, the budget committee zeroed the school line for capital this year. We were able to get all our capital. And one of the reasons why they zeroed that was because of this ordinance, I believe, during the discussions with the budget committee. All I'm asking is that we free up this money so that we can begin to spend it if the need is there. And then, of course, if you read the bottom, the ordinance shall become effective upon passage by the town council in ordinance with section 408 of the town home rule order with an expiration date of next year. And the reason for that is by then we might want to change our thought process here. Mike, I know I'm probably not explaining this completely and you have your hands up, so go ahead.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make a motion and put this before us to approve, and I will have some suggested amendments.
I think the motion is just to send it out to advertisement.
Yeah, the motion is just to send it out.
Oh, yes, you're right.
Oh,
So let me just suggest, though, I think in putting it out for advertisement, I think these are important. One is I would ask that we put in there a dollar amount limitation on what can be expended in fiscal year 2022. We have roughly 950,000 at this point in time, is my understanding, in that account.
Yep.
And that we limit it to that amount or round it to $1 million. And because the last thing I think we want to do is get into a situation where we're spending everything that we might have come in the coming months, and then we're stuck behind the 8 ball again next year.
No, that wasn't my intent at all.
I know it wasn't.
What is there now?
Right. I know it wasn't. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I think it's helpful to put a limitation in it. And then second, Mike, I'm not sure, you and I talked about this, but I guess maybe I'm still not clear. The intent is for the supermajority only to be for the emergency need votes, not for the regular votes, so to speak, correct?
Correct.
Right.
I think it says that, though.
Fiscal year 2022 for municipal and school department capital expenditure and any emergency need. See, to me, that clause goes together.
Right. Yeah. I understood.
Well, you got to read it. You got to read the last. You got to read the last sentences. So, 2020 for municipal aid and school department capital expenditures by majority vote of the city council, and for any emergency need upon a supermajority vote, 5 out of 7 of the town council. So
I don't have what you're reading.
Oh, I do.
I have any monies transferred into this account can be expended in fiscal 2022 for municipal and school department capital expenditures and for any emergency need upon a supermajority vote. So this was in my paper copy. I did not look at the PDF version, so maybe it's in the PDF version.
yeah, so we did change that, Mike, when we had.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
The only caution I would have is the only thing that's before the agenda tonight is to put it out for advertising as is right now. We can amend it at that here. We can amend it at the after the public hearing.
That is.
Okay.
But yeah, I do want to make it.
question?
I do want to make it clear. I don't even anticipate we're going to spend the whole 900. I just feel that it's fair at this point that we put it out, that we do that because of the discussions that have been held. And because, in my opinion, some of the decisions were made because of the discussions that were held on this casino money.
Right.
Jay?
So the real thrust of this is, yes, we agree to use it for capital, either school or municipal, but not until we actually have it in the bank.
Well, I want to spend.
And we're going to use what we already have. We'll spend no more than we have right now in the bank.
I had no intentions of it being what's coming. It's what's there right now.
Okay, that's good.
What's there
I've
right
been
now.
pushing for that since the beginning.
And then if you think about it, this could help both the schools and the town buy the capital they need without taxation.
Right.
For next year. So if this all works out, the capital for next year should be decreased because of our move this year.
Right.
Donna? It's just request for advertisement, so we're gonna talk about this more later before we make a decision.
So the problem here is that this money is outside the FTR, which I've said before. Now you've decided you're going to spend it and only a couple of people are going to make decisions and the public's not going to have any say on it.
That's
through the
absolutely not
FTR.
true, and Mike's gonna, that's absolutely not true. We will, but this will all be discussed at the public hearing, but we will take the input of people. We will definitely take the input. We will have public hearings.
Thank you, Denise. I just want to finish what I'm saying. I just have a question about section 203, that you're spending this money, major appropriations. And if the people have to have say, when you spend that kind of money, anything over $500,000, also it's out of the FTR. This also seems to be done at the last minute. And I don't think that's a good idea. Everything was known when I was asking about this, and now all of a sudden, and I think I know why, but I'm not going to go into it. This is really not letting the residents know what's going on. It's being done really quickly. I don't think it's right. It's not within the FTR. I don't know how you get it in there now. I really don't. And I think it's against section 203, and I think it always was against section 203. Because you're not supposed to be spending money like that without the say of the people.
This ordinance was never in the FTR, Donna. It really never was. And I know you're
That's what I'm saying. You
I-
took it off the books, so to speak.
No, we did not.
No, we did not, Donna. And this is the same discussion we have had repeatedly.
It's not in the FTR.
All I'm asking is this goes to advertisement, and at the public hearing, we'll hear from the people and we'll vote as a council. It's just not one person bringing it forward. I just asked for the council's consideration. If the council majority does not want to consider this, then we can vote tonight not to bring it to public hearing.
Madam President,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we approve this to be advertised.
I'll second that, but I just want to make sure, Mike or Joan, that you have the version that
As amended.
Mike's speaking from, because I still, even in my PDF version, I have the one that doesn't talk about the majority vote.
I'll confer with Joan tomorrow, but I think Joan and I have the right one.
Okay. Second.
Any further discussion? And this is just for advertisement. And at the public hearing, all of these points will come out and we will vote on it. All those in favor, Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
I'm a yeah. I'm a yes. Donna?
I don't believe in the ordinance in the first place, so it's no.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
All right, I am going to leave you in very capable hands of Mike. And I'll see you all very soon. Are you all set, Mike?
I'm all set. Go to sleep. I don't want to have anybody.
No, nobody will. I mean, I've done my job in 1 hour sleep, but I don't want to.
No fatalities.
I'm
Thank
not
you.
saying anybody's in danger. All right.
Thank you.
Chris, did you want to say something? No.
No, I was getting on die. That's all. Have a good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so administrative number 9I, Administrative COTA, discussion and possible vote on Winterberry Woods Homeowners Association's request for extension of deadline from July 1 of 21 to December 1 of 21.
So the homeowners at Winterberry Woods have, they did receive the letters that we sent out in January, or actually early February. They're working very hard trying to get this done. They're pretty close to having their documents all away. They've created the homeowners association. They've created their board of directors. They just need the documents to be formalized through the Secretary of State's office. And they have met with Rick Rogers already. They've gone through the issues out there. They're well versed in what needs to be done, and they are agreeable to comply. I don't have any issue with them extending this till December to get the formalized paperwork done.
Do I have a motion to put this before us for?
So moved.
Second. Councilor Janik moved it and Councilor Vieira second. Any discussion? Donna?
I'm sorry, I missed some of it. I was frozen.
Chris, you want to just repeat what you had described?
So the homeowners, there's a group of.
I think I missed what Chris said.
Yeah, he's repeating himself.
So the homeowners out at Winterberry Woods have met. They've created a board of directors. They're getting the paperwork ready to be filed with the Secretary of State's office to formalize that. They've met with Rick Rogers about the needs of the things that need to happen as a result of the deed restrictions. And I have no issue with them extending this to December 1st. They are moving proactively forward to achieve the things that we required of them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion?
And this is all pursuant to them getting their, what do you call it, surety back?
No, this has nothing to do with their surety. This has to do with the fact that development was done by a developer who at the end of the day walked away from it and never.
Okay,
created the homeowner.
I got it.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I'll go for a vote. All those in favor, or your vote anyway. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Moving on to item 9J, Administrator COTA, discussion and possible vote to extend West Place Animal Sanctuary contract for 1 year under current contract agreement.
So the contract does end with West Place at the end of June. The owners of West Place have reached out to both Mike Marcello and myself about extending this contract on the same terms and conditions for another year. I have no issue with moving forward.
I'll entertain a motion to put before us a vote on whether or not to extend.
So moved.
Second.
That's a motion to extend, Bill?
Motion to extend the contract for 1 year under the current contract agreement.
Okay, and Councilor Edwards seconded.
Yep.
Discussion?
Can I just
Councilor
ask,
Janik?
can I just ask what the function of West Place Animal Sanctuary is?
So on behalf of the town, contractually.
Right, right.
So, when the dog officer or the animal control officer winds up with an animal, we rent cages on a daily basis, and we are able to utilize those cages to house those animals at those cages. It's no different than what we did with
The Secundit vets?
vet and whoever we've used in the past.
Okay.
We've always rented 6 cages to handle, house the animals that we contain.
Okay. I didn't know if it was more extensive than that.
No, that's all. It's very, very limited to what it is that's performed. They do an excellent service. Don't get me wrong. West Place can handle they do let our animal control officer in and out to deal with the animals, and we do monitor them. But we don't use a lot of the cages, but we never know how many we're going to need.
Right. Thank you.
And unfortunately, we're not allowed to go out of state for that service,
No, we're not.
even if it was cheaper.
Correct.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Counselor Edwards,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
Yes.
Counselor Janik,
Yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes.
Counselor Perry.
Where'd he go?
Joe, are you
Yes.
there? Yes. And myself, yes. Thank you. So it passed unanimously. Moving on, this is my item, Councilor Burke, discussion and possible vote on advertising public hearing for proposed amendment to Tiverton Code of Ordinance, Chapter 78, Traffic and Vehicles, Section 7831, trucks exceeding 4 tons in overall weight prohibited from using certain streets. And Chris, you might want to bring the chief in. I think he's still here.
I think.
I had brought this up when we first started, this council anyway, because of concerns raised to me around truck traffic on residential streets in the north end of Tiverton, including very large trucks, dump trucks, delivery 18-wheelers that have knocked out some wires, luckily not electrical wires. So I've been working with the chief and Mike on this. The chief can explain some of the rationale, but the definitions, I believe, the chief pulled from state law so that they're consistent with that. And you see it affects those streets that are listed: Canonicus Street West, except for making deliveries on the street; Hilton Street West, except for making deliveries on the street; Russell Drive, all these except for making deliveries on the street. So Russell Drive, Warren Avenue, East Hooper Street, Merritt Avenue, Durfee Road, Beardsworth Road, East Beardsworth Road, Kenyon Road, and Kenyon Road East beginning from Fish Road, except for making deliveries on the street. Chief, do you want to add anything?
Oh, sir, I think you summed it up very well. This would just mirror what we already have in existence on Warren Avenue. So when tractor trailers, other vehicles, oil trucks, or other commercial vehicles hauling hazardous materials are trying to cut through between Fish and Main Road to avoid the traffic, they would be prohibited in doing so except for making deliveries.
Thank you. My only thing, Mike, I think we'd have to do this at the hearing. That last one, Kenyon Road, has Kenyon Road parentheses east beginning from Fish Road. You can't go east on Kenyon beginning from Fish Road. I think it's meant to not have that parentheses there.
We can check that out with the chief, but yeah, we can't amend it now anyway, so we can amend it.
Yeah, right. Okay. Any, so I'll entertain a motion to put this before us for public hearing, to advertise for public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
So Councilor Janik made the motion, Councilor Vieira seconded. Discussion?
It's probably a silly question, but designed to transport 16 or more passengers, do we need to put a specific exclusion in here for school buses?
I'll let the chief take that one because he explained that idea to me.
Okay. It wasn't quite such a stupid question then.
So as long as there's a drop off or a pickup on the street, and I know in some of those residential neighborhoods, there are students with special needs. So the school bus has to go there and drop them off. They would be exempt under this ordinance.
Okay.
So you're basically making a human delivery or human pickup.
Exactly.
Okay, we'll call that the delivery then. Works for me.
Other discussion? Okay, hearing, seeing none, I'll move for a vote to put this up for public hearing, advertise this for public hearing. Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And thank you all. And thank you, Chief and Mike, for helping with this. Moving on, our next item is I want to make sure I have this right one. L. Counselor DiMederos, Counselor Burke, discussion and possible vote on rescinding the establishment of the Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee as passed on March 8, 2021, due to lack of interest. So we have had discussions with many people, and we have one person actually make an application. I think that's accurate, Madam Clerk. And then we did hear just this weekend from the school committee who their appointee would be, but we would still be 4 people short, and it's been several months since we started. So this kind of goes hand in hand with N. And so the thought that Denise and I discussed was that we look at rescinding this committee, and we take on, and I've gotten lots of positive feedback from this idea from a variety of folks. We take on the responsibility, because in the end, it is our responsibility, of holding public hearings, getting the input that this committee would have done anyway, parsing through that input and coming up with a decision on how to move forward with the process of allocating those funds in the future. And, that's both in terms of, the restricted accounts, how much goes in there, whether or not any gets moved to, tax relief. And also from my perspective, it includes how do you prioritize the projects? So coming up with some type of system that is equitable, makes sense, that allows for prioritization of those projects moving forward, and making sure that the money is not used before it's really there to be used, right? So that it's always forward funding. So that's the thought of why we're suggesting that we rescind that committee, and then why we look at this item N about moving those items, or about having those other public hearings. So right now we're on L, and Chris, I see your hand.
No, I agree with you at this point. We've been advertised this number of times, but it is still your intent to invite the school administration to fully weigh in, because it is important for them to have the ability to utilize some of these fundings for their capital projects.
Absolutely. So I'd entertain a motion to put this before us, a motion to rescind the establishment of the Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee as passed on March 8th, 2021.
So moved.
I'll second.
Councillor Edwards made the motion, Councillor Janik seconded, and we're open for discussion.
I'll just make one comment. Like you said, we've had it out there for a while. The public has had more than ample opportunity to join us. They've declined, apparently. We were elected to lead, and I've always said we should lead from the front, and this is one of those times. Now, once we've made a bunch of observations and recommendations, the voters get to weigh in on it, but in the end, it's our job.
Councillor Cook, you had your hand up?
I can't vote. I already voted no.
So no, you can vote. You can vote. You can vote. So what has to happen, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, on this first, somebody who was in the affirmative side had to make the motion. So Jay was in the affirmative side. He had agreed previously to this committee. So he made the motion. I seconded it. Deb seconded. She also was in the affirmative. Everybody gets a chance to vote. Mike, do we need a simple majority or what? Simple majority? Simple majority vote on this. So Donna, you have every right to vote on this. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll move to the vote. And this is a vote to rescind the Casino Gaming Revenue Advisory Committee. Councillor Edwards?
Yes.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Janik?
Yes.
Councillor Vieira?
Yes.
Councillor Perry?
Yes.
And myself, yes. And I do appreciate the person who did step forward, and I hope that that person will, provide input to us in the process as we go forward with this, and also others. So
Right.
we've all, yep.
Do we need to advertise that we're doing this?
So now we're going to jump to N.
Okay.
We don't have to advertise that we're rescinding. No, because
Okay.
it was not an ordinance. It was just a decision on our part to
No, I
create
was
the
just
committee.
curious, since if we advertised that we were gonna, to do it, if we had to advertise that we're not, that's all.
Yeah, no, we advertised for interested parties, but
Okay.
it wasn't on creating it. So the next item is item N, Councilor Burke, discussion and possible vote to set hearing dates for allocation and use of casino gaming revenue. So this is the process that, I talked about very briefly, that we would start engaging with the public and getting that input and doing it in a reasonable but relatively short period of time, because we're moving, we're way beyond where we want it to be at this point. So my suggestion is that we look at our next two meeting dates as two of the public hearings. And I believe, Joan, what we said is that the vote on M, that would end up with the advertising schedule. That would be which meeting? We figure that out?
That'll be July 26th meeting.
Okay, July 26th, and probably you need the same amount of time for the first public hearing on this, correct? On N?
Sorry, I was on mute.
That's okay.
Are these hearing dates for like a workshop?
Yeah, so it's not a hearing on an ordinance per se. It's a hearing to gather input. So I guess we don't have to follow the same rules as an ordinance, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It requires 21 days. I think this is more of a
information
gathering
Yep.
session. So it's more of a if you're not going to take any votes, then it would be more of a workshop. If you do expect to take a vote, then it would be a special meeting.
We're not gonna vote.
Yeah, it's just a public hearing, so you're just having public hearings.
You're just gathering information from the public.
As long as, even if you wanted to take a vote, the ability to vote or not is not determined what the meeting is called. It's determined what's on the agenda. So if you can call it whatever you want, but I would just do it as a public hearing on these, much like you do public hearings on other stuff. But as long as you give 48 hours notice, you're okay with this one.
So with that, my thought, and we have had long meetings, so maybe people think differently. I was trying to avoid having too many special meetings coming up in July. So I was thinking we have one more meeting in June. We could set aside time there. We have our first meeting in July, which would be roughly July 10th. No, July 10th is a Saturday, so the July 12th. Yeah, July 12th. And then maybe one special meeting between those two, or between the 12th and the second regular meeting of the month, because the second regular meeting of the month, we will be having the public hearing on the ordinance itself. Councilor Vieira?
Because this is such an important topic of conversation, could we maybe go outside the box and maybe have it on a weekend, like a Saturday kind of, instead of a Monday night? We've had workshops. I'm just wondering if those people that maybe are not available during the night may.
Sure.
I don't know.
Is that you mean as the third one?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I was just maybe thinking about a weekend to let those people who are not available at night to chime in on the weekend, maybe.
Other discussion? So let me, Donna? I
don't know why anyone would want to go to a meeting on a Saturday weekend rather than go to the beach to enjoy the summer. I just don't understand on meetings. I'm also confused on July 26th. What is that for?
That's for item M, discussion and possible vote on well, we're advertising for a public hearing to modify that ordinance. And the earliest we could do that with the public hearing timeframes is the 26th of July.
Okay.
So let me break this up. Do we want to do one of these public information gathering hearings at our next meeting? I'm just looking for a general show of hands. We'll take a vote afterwards. General show of hands, yes, no.
Well, let me ask a question. And Chris probably knows off the top of his head better, but you might, Mike. What important things do we have coming up at our next meeting? And the reason I ask that is tonight is a case in point. Some of these agendas get awful ambitious. And if we put something like that in, you know that it's going to generate a lot of discussion.
So what if we did this?
You'd need a pretty lean agenda.
So what if we did this? That we look at the 28th, is that what it is? Yeah, 28th this month, 28th, I think that's the date, as a possibility, but that when we're planning the agenda, we take that, what Jay just described, into account. And if it looks like it's going to be too full, then we would schedule a second, a special meeting of some sort. And then we'd also, when we get to the 12th of July, the planning for that, we look at that. And if it looks like it's going to be a very full agenda, we do the same thing. And then we also add a third meeting at some point in time.
26th.
The 26th is.
26th.
No, I mean a special. So I don't think we should do this hearing on the 26th. You mean the 26th of July?
Of July, that's, yeah.
We're already doing the ordinance that night, so I'm concerned about.
Right, that's what I was going to say, right.
Right, so I think that one's off the table for this purpose.
And then however we do it, schedule what we're talking about now kind of early in the meeting.
Yes, so we wouldn't necessarily advertise it, I don't think, as well. We can work out the details with the solicitor. I don't know if we want to call it a public hearing per se, but a public input session.
Public
so are we comfortable with that we at least say we're going to do 3 public input sessions between now and July 26th, excluding the 26th? They may or may not be at one of our regular meetings or 2 of our regular meetings, depending on what those agendas look like, which means we could have up to 3 special meetings between now and the 26th. And I agree, Bill, I think, and Don, I understand the beach stuff, but I think there are enough people who still, may work during the day, may work at nighttime, whatever the case might be. So having one of those 3 on a weekend would be helpful. Bill?
It may be a meeting where we just read public comments. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, that's all we did.
I think we're going to be busy with the FTR in July too. So I think we need to start thinking about outside the box as opposed to Monday nights.
Yeah, I just don't know that there's a lot for us to have to do with the FTR until possibly after it.
Not actually, no.
How about the 8th, Thursday night?
The 8th of July?
The budget committee is no longer meeting on Thursdays.
Do we want to budget? Do we want to do one July 8th? That would give us a meeting on the 8th and the 12th in July, plus the 26th.
That sounds good.
Game.
All right, so I'm going to leave it at this, unless somebody starts throwing things at my screen. When we plan for the agenda for our next meeting, we'll look at the timeframes, and if we think we can squeeze something in there, we'll do that. And we can also limit it to a time frame. We can say we're going to take input for an hour. There's nothing wrong with us doing that. And if at the end of that hour we decide that we want to extend it, we just take a vote to extend it. But you can limit discussion on items. You're allowed to do that. And then we look again for the 12th and when we schedule one for the 8th of July. Does that work for folks?
Yeah, well, Mike, remember, when we go back to in-person meetings, there has always been a limit on your time at the microphone. We've gotten thoroughly away from that on Zoom. So at the beginning of a meeting, you can make that statement and have it stick.
And I'm also, and I'll put this out there to whoever's listening, I really hope that folks will give us their input in writing for two reasons. One, it avoids the need for that time to be used for listening, which is important in a public meeting. But some of these ideas may have details to them, and we're not going to capture all the details if it's not in writing. So I really encourage folks to put any ideas that they have in writing to provide for us so we can really analyze it much more effectively.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to move on to announcements.
So just for the public's notice, we have opened up town hall fully now. The doors are unlocked. You're allowed to come in. We do still prefer that to the extent necessary, if you have something that is extensive, you should really make an appointment. Because as the building official may be out doing inspections, or the assessor may be out doing assessments, or I may be out on other meetings, so it would behoove you to still try to make an appointment to the best the best of your ability. And as it relates to the clerk's office, I do know that to gain access to the vault, we are very, very limited in space in there. So we are still taking by appointment only to utilize the issues within the vault. But for all intents and purposes, we are trying to open up the town hall for people that are comfortable coming in. We are following the same guidance as the CDC has authorized and the Rhode Island Department of Health as it relates to masks. While we would prefer people wear them, but if they're vaccinated, they don't have to. And we're not going to prejudge people or to go down that road of saying you have to shoot proof of any kind. The town hall will be open business, and we'll do the best that we can to try to get through this. So it's a good thing, but I still expect a lot of people to utilize the box outside. A lot of people are still not comfortable coming into public places, which we are going to make every amenity that we have made over the past year or so for those who are not comfortable coming inside. And we will try to accommodate every business need that we can to achieve the functionality of the town's business and with our constituents.
Thank you. Anything for Chris? Thank you. Madam Clerk, update on financial town referendum.
Yes, thank you, President Burke. I want to remind everyone that the last day to register to vote and to be able to vote in the FTR, that day is June 16th. Final canvass of the list of voters is scheduled for 6:25 with the Board of Elections, Board of Canvass. We have the advertisement is going in the paper this week for the financial town hearing for July 1st. It's being advertised as a Zoom meeting. We also have
7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock, July 1st. We do have the town council resolutions are uploaded to the website, as well as 2 budget proposal elector petitions. The next due date is to have those elector petitions returned with voter signatures by June 19th between 9 and 12. The 19th is a Saturday, so anytime between now and June 19th at noon. The Board of Canvassers met, and they have decided that the absentee voting will be on 7/15 and 7/16. That's the Thursday and Friday before the FTR. And they agreed to have that open from 8:30 to 4, the same hours as Town Hall. And that's it.
Any discussion? Okay, thank you. So I know you're going to hate me for this, but I will ask for unanimous consent to give one informational item on a legislative update. It'll take like 30 seconds. Any objection? Seeing none. So Representative Edwards called me this afternoon just to give me an update on some of the legislation that we've discussed that he has in. The borrowing authority for the Stone Bridge 5258 is on the House floor. I believe I forgot to take the note on that one. I think that's on the House floor. The cesspool extension bill 5276 is passed by the House, so it will have to be assigned to a Senate committee. There was a bill that he's put on in years that never really moved, but this time it passed the House, and that's on feral cats after they're neutered, being able to release them. 5462, it's now in Senate Judiciary. And the ability for school committees to add items to their agendas for discussion purposes has passed the House. I'm sorry, it's on the floor of the House. That's all. Any questions? Thank you. So now I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session under Town Administrator RIGL 42-46-5A5, discussion/overview of the disposition of publicly held property in the Tiverton Industrial Park, continued from March 29, 2021 meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Janik?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
Myself, yes. And then also closed executive session, Town Administrator, RIG under RIGL 42-46-5A2, collective bargaining, IBPO number 406, update of status of negotiations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilor
Second.
Perry, second by Edwards. Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Janik,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
myself, yes. And Joe, notice I don't,
Yes.
and myself, yes. So we are now back in regular session of the Tiverton Town Council meeting of June 14th.
We're live.
In the executive session, the council voted on for 6-0 on a purchase and sale of property within the industrial park, but the details are not able to be released at this time. And the administrator provided information on item B, the collective bargaining agreement with IBPO 406, but no votes were taken. With that, I think I will entertain a motion. Deb, I'm going to ask you.
What motion? Motion to adjourn?
Yes.
I'll make a
Absolutely.
motion to adjourn.
You look tired, Deb.
And Don, I'll give you the second.
Okay, I'll take the second. I'll
And
take the second. I'll take the fifth.
Jay,
Sure, yes.
Donna,
Yes.
Joe.
No.
Yes.
Stay and run this. You stay
Yeah.
and run it. Yes.
Bill.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you all. Have a good night. And